All right. What is up? The 13th episode of the Unplugged Alpha series. And this is round two of the 1% crew getting together for a little chop it up session on the topic of how to get some proper results with your dating apps and filling your calendar with dates, because a lot of people suck at this pretty badly. You know what? As soon as I created this event, and by the way, welcome again, Moff and Josh and I'm just going to call you 50 Shades of Green because I don't think you want to use your real name, right, bud?
Nope.
Okay.
I like the Irishman. I mean, you used that last time.
Yeah, I like the
that.
Irishman last
Just,
time, but
just call me the Irishman.
all right, the
Yeah.
Irishman. So, yeah, like the first thing that popped up when I created this event, right away somebody gets into the comments and they're like, "Don't even waste your time. They're bottom tier women. They're all gross. Nothing's going to happen. Stop it." Da da da. Right? Has that been your experience on dating apps, guys? Like, are they all, what do you call them there, Irishmen?
Stump grinders.
Stump grinders, that's it.
Stump grinders and tugboats. No, it's like going to it's like going to Marshalls. If you look, you'll get a couple of good deals off the rack.
I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of visual because I like to have faces on my cast when I do this. But our Irishman is like an Irish James Bond. He's a handsome fella, just so you understand what we're dealing with here. So, hey, what's up, Jaron?
Hey, I think I made it in here. Can you hear me this time? I think I got good internet.
Yeah, and your video's clearer too. It's a lot clearer.
Yep, I made a trip back to the States and invested in whole new setup because the last time was slightly disastrous.
Wicked. All right, so so back to the topic. So these are the boys from the 1%. That's my private community. We talk about a lot of stuff in there. One of the topics that comes up from time to time is like field reports and getting better results. And we always see guys that will post something that isn't that great, and we'll all chime in to give them a hand. And sometimes we'll see guys that are basically like legends. Like Jaron did like a breakdown last week on how to use emojis, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the way you broke it down made a lot of sense. And of course, you've got the experience to back it up. So the first question I wanted to throw at you guys, which I kind of alluded to earlier, was are dating apps a waste of time? Like, are they all stump grinders? Are they all like disgusting? Like, you're not going to get any results. They're not going to match with you. Like, what's your experience been from that angle?
I mean, I'd kick things off with that. In my experience, I would say it depends on two factors, right? It depends on what particular apps you're using, and then two, what is your level of skill in making it work for you.
Cool.
So, depending on your personality type, like if you're more of that more kind of alpha playboy type of individual, then something like a match.com is probably not going to be better for you, right? Or like a Christian Mingle or a JDate, because those are definitely a lot more monogamous, traditional relationship oriented type sites or apps versus other sites, which are going to be a lot more conducive to your personality style if you want to just like have a lot more dates and, get out and have a bit more fun. So your things like Bumble and Tinder. And then, of course, I still would consider this site to be part of the general dating app sphere, but it's kind of in its own category, which is going to be a site kind of like Seeking, which is one of those where, everyone that says, "Oh, there's no such thing."
Different quality girls, but I mean, the question that I wanted to ask was like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, with like 10 being bombshell and 1 being a sea donkey, or stump grinders, as the Irishman would call it. Like, what are you finding on average on dating sites that you're generally connecting with when you're going out with them? Like, are we talking 7s, 8s, 6s? Like, what are you dealing with?
Yeah, it's a mix, but I'll say the general average, which is kind of like the general average in life, is you're going to be generally going between the 5 to like, lower tier 8 range. That's going to be your general curve. The exception to that rule, obviously, is going to be a site like Seeking, where there's going to be a lot of 10s and 9s on that site. Just it's overflooded, but that's its own kind of separate bubble. But as far as the general dating app space, because part of my job going out and consulting people is I just got everything and was just hopping on everything and seeing the general space. You're getting between the 5 to 8 range on there, and then of course you get a couple of your 9s or so sprinkled in there.
Okay, so I mean, like, we're not talking stump grinders like our friend posted in the comments as soon as I generated the event. From your experience, Jaron, what are you seeing from your angle? Because I mean, you're in southwestern U.S. You travel a lot, to Latin America. So what's your experience been with women and what they look like?
It really depends on the app and it depends on the market. So, as was just mentioned, for Seeking, for example, you will get like the 8s, 9s, 10s. But I've found I always use in my game what I call the pain in the ass factor. So yeah, I can get those, but it's going to be a lot more effort. And then usually on the back end, it's not going to be as much fun. I'm not going to get as much out of it. I'll have to constantly be on the entire time, and I usually kind of like to chill when I have my experiences. So I can go for the 8, 9s, 10s on Seeking, but there's going to be a lot more work involved, and maybe the return is not necessarily what I want to put in on the front end.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're basically saying is that you'd prefer a pleasant 7 than a bitchy 10.
Yeah, I usually date in the 6, 7, 8 range. Just real nice, pleasant, feminine, fun girls. I've broken down the community how I set up my profile. I'm a digital marketer by trade, so I set it down just like an inbound sales funnel. It's right on there.
Did you ever read the book Inbound Marketing?
This is the experience. I'm sorry?
Did you ever read the book Inbound Marketing?
No, I need to add that to my reading list. I believe John.
It's old. It's about 10 years old, but it kind of sets the mindset in from the marketing frame of things, with business. But you can also apply the same concepts to, drawing traffic in, when it comes to the ladies too, right?
Yeah, and that's essentially what I do. So I craft it like an offer, just like you're selling any goods or services online. Swipe right. Here's what you're going to get. I usually do like 420 sunset snuggles. In Spanish, I'll do the translation of it, and then I'll say a serenade if you're lucky. And culturally, they all kind of know what that means. It already kind of sets the tone. I put my Instagram right there, and then usually I've found in this market that Bumble's the best. In the U.S. it's usually kind of later 20s, early 30s, but here it runs a wide range, and they're usually more professional girls. So I know on Bumble here, when I swipe right, that I'm gonna get the match, and that's just because I'm in a different foreign market where I believe my SMV is perceived higher than what it would be elsewhere. If I were in LA, I would not have this success to be forthcoming.
All right, well, let me throw that question over to Muff.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you
I was gonna say, yeah. So you swipe.
Yeah.
The offer's there, and when they match, they already know what they're going to get. So usually you'll have a stack of matches.
We'll save the strategies for like when we kind of dive down the rabbit hole a little bit more. Moff, so what's your experience been? Because you're in northeastern U.S. What are you, like 29, 28?
I'll be 30 in February.
Look young, man. So what's your experience been with dating women in your city? Like, are we talking 7s, 8s, 9s? Like,
yeah, I would echo the sentiments with my other gentleman on the panel here. I mean, it's I would say between that 5 and low 8 range. But we know like the top tier 9 out of 10 women from a look standpoint are just not really on the apps. I mean, they probably were, and I think they were during the pandemic as a function of the need for attention, right? Because they're not going out to bars and parties and getting hit on by guys. So it's just that extra validation that they wanted they couldn't get out in public. I mean, to answer the question, though, of are they a waste of time, the simple answer is no. They are, and I will always say this, they are a useful tool, but they shouldn't be the only tool on your belt. And the three major pros that I see, and I have cons as well for apps, but when it comes particularly for guys, the first one is just a pure volume standpoint. So if you wanted to approach, say, 100 women, and let's say you approached a woman at a rate of 1 chick every 5 minutes, it would take you like 8 or 9 hours to get to 100. It would take you all day. You can do that on a dating app approach, as in like swipe on a chick left or right, or even swipe right in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? The second one is you have a general understanding, or there's a certain degree of certainty that women on dating apps are not in relationships, and the context is proper. They're looking for dating, romance, relationships, etc. So you're not getting the I have a boyfriend excuse or whatever that might be. And I think a third one, which is really huge, that Renegade Wingman talks about a lot, is the importance of text game. And because the vast majority of our interactions, whether it's personal relationships, friendships, family, even work at this point, is all through text. Like 99% of all our interactions are text. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know how to communicate over text message, if you don't know how to properly convey tone or to flirt or to be funny, it's really tough out there. So it really puts you in the arena to expand your volume, get comfortable texting and then getting off and setting dates through the phone, which what every guy should be doing. And then also is the proper context of, those basic high level objections of boyfriend, husband, relationship. You're not really seeing that a lot.
Okay, cool. All right, Stump Grinder, talk to me, brother.
here,
Yeah,
guys.
you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
here we go. Yeah, well, my experience is any girl you meet in real life that you match with is at least half a point to 1.5 points below what she looks like on the app.
Oh yeah.
So if you match with an 8, she's either going to be a 7.5 or a 6.5. There's no tens. They're going to be 8.5
Yeah.
or 8s. It's just a fact of it. And again, you have to realize that these apps are products, and their business model is to keep you on there as long as possible.
Yep.
Their business model is not to get you matched and send you into happily ever after. They got to keep you on there. So a little trick that I use is I moderate my parameters every now and then. So if you go into your Tinder account and you adjust the mileage and you adjust the age, what will happen is it'll start throwing girls that are in that new mileage and that new age range up to you. So sometimes I'll have it out to 30 miles. Next evening I'll bring it down to 15, and it'll start throwing up a lot more girls within that radius. And just to reinforce what Moff said about Wingman is, since I took his advice on board to inject more of your personality into your text game, things just took off exponentially for me, because I just, I started being me instead of, hey, if you ask a girl, how was your weekend? That'll dry her up quicker than the Sahara Desert. I mean, it's like, how's it going? How's your weekend? I mean, how was work today? That's literally saying, can I bore you to death, please?
Can I be your best friend?
Can I be your best friend? Because this sense, when you're able to drop jokes with sarcasm, some of your personality in there, it's conveying that you're confident and you really don't, and sometimes I will post my greatest hits in the group. And I had one girl, she said, I'm looking for something long-term and serious. And she unmatched straight away, because I responded with, have you tried a 30-year fixed rate mortgage? Didn't like that at all. And other girls are like lighting up thinking that's hilarious, and they're like, oh, you're funny. So again, you've got to have your personality in there.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to it's a good thing to disqualify them, though. So I'll ask those direct questions right up in the front end, like, hey, you in a good mood or a bad mood tonight? Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, all right, well, there's
your
my
bad
answer.
mood. Done.
If she's like, oh, what you thinking? What you thinking, hottie? You're like, all right, this chick is in a good mood. I'm in a good mood. And then again, sell the experience. And an addendum to the location thing. Yep. If you ever like start getting kind of lower down your stack, you notice the girls are like 5s and 4s. If you have the premium version of the app, drop it in a market where you're just going to blow the sexual market competition out of the water. Like, I don't want to name a place, but like dirty, like really gross Latin American cities that I know, like the people I live with tell me don't ever go there. Right. All right, I'll drop it right there. I'll get boosted right back to the top. You don't have to swipe or like them, and then you go back to your market, and you'll notice that the
does that actually boost your value?
I've seen it.
That's actually a really clever trick. That's
the algorithm.
Very clever way to hack the algorithms. All right, so Jason, I don't know if you caught the early bit before you popped in, but the question to like kind of kick this off was, as soon as I created this event, there's somebody that just slammed in the comments and just threw up all over the place, saying something to the effect of, "Don't even bother. The women there are gross, blah blah blah," sort of thing, or they're very low quality, or some combination of that. So, what's your experience been with women using dating apps where you live?
So I guess I'll give you guys my experience, and the gals I'm dating are, this can sound crazy because you guys see me on here and you're like, this dude. I dated 3 gals. One's a current model. There are 2 other were former models, and I'm 6 feet tall with a pair of boots on, right? So it's not like I'm some Chad, ripped with 6-pack abs and all that nonsense. And a lot of the gals I've dated too are, they're business owners. I've dated some doctors. And I think that's one of the things I've found is, at least with the gals I date, typically I'm dating those kind of higher level professional folks, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because you guys know they date across and they date up. They don't date down. So there's a lot of really great, beautiful women who are very successful that are just not going to date, average dudes.
Well, that's the biggest complaint that a lot of like university educated professional women have, is that they have a hard time finding successful guys that can satisfy the whole hypergamy curve, right?
Yeah. And that's where the different sites come into play, because different girls are looking for different things on different sites. Whereas you get a lot of girls that are saying, hey, I want to go on the Bumble sites because I'm looking for, I don't want to deal with the typical Tinder bros. So I want like a little bit more of an established guy. That's what pushes a lot of girls over to like a Match.com or like a Seeking, which is like, hey, we want guys that we know are like well established, and like how they go about trying to lock down those established guys. That's a little bit different. But just as far as like, knowing where the fish are going, that's very, very important to your strategy of like, okay, what type of girl am I trying to attract? Am I trying to attract the girls that just want to kind of like hang out and have fun? Because I've met a lot of, girls, especially during the pandemic, right? I'm 23 years old. I'm bored at home. All right, yeah, let me go on some dating apps and let me just, see who's around and who's interesting, and wound up having that work out really well for me. 2020 is a very productive year. But again, you have to understand where exactly are the types of girls that you're looking for. What are they going for? So when you are on apps, don't just be on apps and just be like, all right, I'm swiping left, I'm swiping right. Like, take some mental notes. Like, hey, these are the type of girls that I typically seem to be running on this particular platform. Let me go bounce over to Hinge and see what type of girls are on there. I would not recommend it because the typical demographic on Hinge is pretty extreme. But, again, you don't know that until you start taking
What is the Hinge
notes.
Like demographic, if you can explain it, because I'm not on dating apps, so I'm just trying to get.
It's what the nightmare stories of what you think the typical girls on dating app, like troll type individuals. There typically are a lot of them are very, very prevalent on Hinge. So
when you say
30 to
like
35-year-olds.
yeah.
Oh, okay, like
It's like the
full
serious,
on,
more,
like,
more urban centers,
settle down.
well into the wall,
university education. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
right,
and
right.
it's
that demographic. And
I'll-
you only get like 10 a day too. So I like efficiency. So
Right.
for ones like Tinder or Bumble, like
Yeah,
I can
that's the
sit on
good
the
thing
toilet.
about dating apps
Bam.
is they are quite efficient. I mean, I started using them in the early 2000s with like the whole Lava Life and LimeWire, or was it LimeWire or Lemon Tonic or some shit like that. Early days, and I always found them very, very efficient, but it was just like an add-on to what you were doing.
Right. I mean, it's like during 2020 when I met some girls in the world beforehand, but when things first started kind of locking down, right, and I was using the apps, I took like some notes and just was breaking down some of the statistics. And so the first month I was on those apps, I had conversations with 246 girls.
Oh, yeah.
So 246 girls, right? That's a lot of conversational experience that I'm getting and gaining right there.
That was just like text conversation.
Yep, just text conversation.
How
and
many
then
of the
usually
246 turned into an actual face-to-face meetup.
So that was the unique and interesting part, because with 2020, I got a lot more exposure because everyone was there because there was a lockdown, but a lot more people were very hesitant, right? Because it's like, well, it's Corona. We're not sure if we can like go outside, or if our Amazon packages are like going to poison us. So of those 246, wound up actually meeting up with 18 that first month. A couple I met up with a couple months later. But
Would
I'm
you guys
out
say
meeting
that
with
that's
18.
pretty consistent, with your experiences? Like
That's exactly my experience.
246 matches, you meet about 18 face-to-face?
I've been a little bit different where, because I just
Basically about 1 in 10.
yeah, I'm running probably about 30%, but I don't spend most of my time on apps. So for me, I love going out to, Texas is open. I mean, Texas has been open for like a year. So I'm out in the clubs, I'm at bars, I'm, hosting, our real estate events and all that stuff. And so I meet a lot of folks that way. But I have noticed the rate of attrition is much lower, obviously on the dating apps, right? Because Paul says this, right? You're just an avatar.
Yeah.
Like you're just some like
You're just a floating
random
head picture.
Yeah, you're like a
You're a
they don't
digital
know you.
offer. You're a potential experience. And if you view the sexual marketplace, it literally, when you're on an app, it is the actual sexual marketplace on a platform.
Yeah.
And you are looking at potential offers and view it like an auction. When I go through my Bumble stack and there's 200 of them, I will look at the 20 that are most interested, respond to them. And usually before I start work for the day, before 8 or 9 p.m., I can have a couple lined up for the day, accounting for flakes, and guaranteed have something that night. And you can get really efficient at it. If you start viewing it, literally, it's just an auction of the potential inbound offers. And as you're responding to 20, she's also responding to 20. So it's just, it's like when you look at a stock trading floor, you're all trying to get into your bids. And when the music stops, whoever's going to end up with whoever, I find out if it's like a last minute Hail Mary in Mexico, by 8 p.m. everyone's kind of locked in their plans for the night. And if I go on at 8 p.m., there will be inbound offers of girls who had plans canceled, didn't fall through, whatever happened during the day, whereas earlier they weren't interested. 8 p.m. is the hour for that.
Yeah,
so
and
you start to learn your marketplace and know how to guide it efficiently.
And it's really gamified the space. I mean, as I tell,
it is gamified, yes.
I tell my clients all the time, it's like, look, all Tinder did was it globalized and popularized the game Smash or Pass and just brought it to everybody. So, because I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's like up, smash, pass, smash, pass. And so now it's gamified it to that level. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect between the way a lot of guys that experience a lot of frustration with dating apps, where they view it. Again, we're not saying, solely do this 100%, because I'm sure pretty much everyone here, like it's a maybe 10 to maybe 20% at the most of any of our activity in the dating world. But at the same time, it is a very good way for you to meet people, get a lot of experience. But I think a lot of times guys don't realize the gamification aspect of it. So they take it a little bit too serious, a little bit too personal, rather than having a little bit of like, hey, it's kind of a game. And I get, my prize of this game is like, to meet someone up in person.
Let me just kind of throw this out there, because I mean, like, one of the things I talked about, and one of the shitty things about this new camera is the fucking resolution is so good you can see the water I just spilled on my shirt. Anyway, one of the things I talked about in the chapter in my book was, if you evaluate yourself and you take a good hard look at yourself, if on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like looking at yourself like I'm a 4. That's why you're going to have a bad experience on a dating app. That's why you're going to go on it. You're not going to get any matches. You're going to get flaked on. You're not going to get a lot of attention, because look at the screen. These are the other guys that are on dating apps as well, right? And they're not a 4. So, I mean, I'm bringing these guys into these live Unplugged Alpha shows from part of my 1% community to give you an idea of the kinds of experiences that other guys have that corroborate the sort of stuff that I'm talking about. The Irishman, I haven't heard from you yet. You've been muted. I know that you have something to say on this.
On, again, what I call Cooper throats. These are my field experiences that if
I swear to God,
didn't...
he's sending me like a direct message on like a private messaging app at least once a week with, you're right about this, you're right about that.
and you know what, it's freaky, and I said it to Jason.
With photographs too sometimes.
I'm in this club and I'm with a girl half my age, and I'm like, fucking effing Cooper, because you said that on one of your things. You said like, there's no reason you shouldn't be hooking up with girls in your 20s, and I wasn't going out to be a slime ball. It was just been hilarious. But one of the main things I've learned from this whole thing is genuine burning desire. And I was discussing this with another member of this community the other night, that when you start to filter out the flakes, when you start to learn the techniques of, this person isn't showing me genuine burning desire, and you start to meet girls that have genuine burning desire for you, your socks are knocked off, your hair's blown back, you're like, where the heck was this my entire life? You're like, this is what it should be about. And
you can get them already showing that if you do your text game right and set up your profiles right, because you've already sold the experience.
That's where it starts,
they show up, they melt into you if you get it down.
So here's what's been interesting, and I'd love to get y'all's comments on this. Obviously, doing a little bit of dating over here. I talk to a lot of girls. It kind of comes up in conversations of, who they're meeting and that sort of thing. And what I'm finding is most of these guys that they're dating are so damn boring. Like they may be, the ripped Chad,
I went to the
super
boring
successsul.
You can't do that.
Yeah,
you cannot be boring, right? You can do anything to a woman you want, except for bore her.
Everything boring AF.
No. I talked about it.
Now, every girl has a good time. Like everything's an adventure with me.
That's right.
And you sell it that way.
Yeah, we're going on an adventure. Actually, I'm going on an adventure. You're welcome to come.
She'll get right in your frame that way. Yeah,
exactly.
So like a fairy tale. Yeah, we're gonna have a fun.
Too many guys do the conventional, hey, let's go and watch a movie together. You don't do that kind of stuff on a first date or even a second date. Not even close.
Like, I got asked, what's your ideal first date? And I said, waking up in a dumpster at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning.
My last
again,
we got up at the crack of
dawn.
The
blue pill guy is going to go.
That's a hell of a date.
Well, it's just you have to understand that, like, when you comes to your field out there, like, again, for those of you guys that doubt, like just take a moderately attractive picture of some girl and create a profile and just see what kind of guys are sliding the DMs, like to understand just
Not
how
even
low
attractive.
the
Not
bar
even attractive.
is set.
Yeah.
Just how like short down it is there.
Yeah.
Just a
it's
basic
very,
female form.
yeah.
How many of you guys have gone through that experiment? It sounds like
Well,
you've done
here's what I did. So
Jay?
I was dating a gal for a while. She runs her own company. She's also a part-time mom. She has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. So we're sitting there at dinner one night, and I said, "Let me see your DMs. I bet there's some crazy stuff in there." And she goes,
You don't want to see them.
"No, here's what's wild. Like, I expected all the stuff from the guys, right? Like the picture of their schlongs, I want to marry you, like the shakes and the yachts, all that crap, right?
They're mostly dorks.
They're all a bunch of dorks. They're all a bunch of dorks.
They're mostly
right?
boring
She
dorks.
she
That's right.
categorizes them though.
Yeah, and she's like, she goes, "No, let
Their
me show you
Instagram.
let me show you the craziest one." It was the women. These women would send her messages and say crazy things like, "You're really beautiful and you're hot and go girl." And then literally like 3 days later, she's like, "You're a bitch and you're terrible and I hate you." And she's like, "This girl's been having a conversation in my DMs. I've not replied to any of them for a year and a half."
Oh, this is just a random person on her Instagram DM.
Random, like the most random stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Sometimes I feel like I get a lot of like spurting out in my DMs. It's like that's why I just have an autoresponder that deals with it.
Yeah.
Guys, there's something else I learned here as well. I think it might have been from you, Jaron, about, when you match with girls, say like, "Here's my Instagram." And I've started to do that in the last few months, and I'm like an air traffic controller stacking the planes, on a crowded airport.
Yeah, let's talk about
just-
about
it's
your
like I'm not
social
closing
footprint
any
out
of
there.
them.
And
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, here's
post good stories too. I post good stories, good music.
Oh,
I
yeah.
try to put some detail into them. Like we had a photographer the other day, and she's like, "Why do you keep taking pictures of arrows and walkways?" And it's like, because I can guide the person through a first person narrative. Girls will see that, and then they'll Instagram me like, "Oh, hey, you're here," or "Oh, I want to go," and they'll throw you inbound offers.
So there's
I
so
use
there's no
Instagram
question
as a
that
step
having
before
good a social
WhatsApp is
footprint
separate
matters,
thing.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, social media is that double-edged sword where it can be very helpful, or there are definitely ways that you can use to get around that, but it definitely increases your degree of difficulty because, again, right, you want that some level of social proof. And again, it's not necessarily to show off like your baller lifestyle that you're out on the yacht popping bottles of Cristal like 24/7, but it's
not
just
a weirdo.
verifying that you're not weird and that you
Yeah.
kind of are who you say you are, right? There's
I'm in Latin America, so there's a legitimate concern with girls like, "Hey, I'm gonna get in an Uber. I don't like, you have to be real. Like, girls get kidnapped all the time and they disappear all the time, and people don't talk about it in the news, but when you live here, you understand that that's a part of reality. So social media really helps assuage any of those concerns. And a lot of times I'll even suggest like, "Hey, get on FaceTime. Like, oh, is your profile real? Yeah, here, drop me WhatsApp. I'll give you a call right now."
One of the best things you can do is let them hear your voice.
Yep.
Especially if you know how to work your voice, right? One of the best things you can do. So we got a question here from somebody that says, "Do you start the conversation or they text you first?" You should always reach out to them. Like, unless it's Bumble where they have to reach out to you first, you should always make the first contact.
Which, very interesting, Bumble is just settling a class action lawsuit about discriminatory practices. So,
wait,
that's
what?
funny.
What?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I got
What's
the
going
email
on?
for it. Yeah, there's a class action lawsuit. A couple guys sued because basically it's discriminatory to have discriminate access to the application based on gender. So
Really?
because only women can answer first and make the first move, that was viewed as classified legally as being discrimination because you're treating someone different based on their gender. So yeah,
That's really bizarre because I mean that's the entire premise of the app. It's
That's
like,
a guy
okay, if you
who's
sign
not
up
getting
for it,
any results out of his own app.
That's what I was going to say.
basically,
Like,
yeah, it's a guy
like,
that's
I
a
don't
dork
bitch
with some
about
money.
that.
why did those
Like,
three gay guys sue Bumble?
It's a bunch of dorks that got together that got really bad results with Bumble. They got pissed off. They pulled some money into a law firm, and that's what they're doing now. Not a
everyone
good use
that's-
of your time, fellas.
No, but everyone
thing
who's
is-
used Bumble as a dude that's been
Honestly,
on there for the last-
Bumble is a great pre-qualifier because if she reaches out to you first, she's already expressed genuine interest in you.
She's
You don't know if
shown
it's
IOI.
genuine burning desire, but if
Yeah.
she's going to message you, trust me, she's got hundreds of matches to choose from.
And my entire game is just looking for IOI, even during day gaming. I don't go and
IOI
actively
stands for
pursue people.
indicators of interest for those that don't know.
So if I catch a 4 count, or if I see the girl like turn her entire body and almost run into oncoming traffic, I'm gonna go talk to her. I know I'm gonna guaranteed get the number and at least get some way down the funnel to, AKA us meeting up and possibly hooking up.
Right.
And it's all about IOIs. So Bumble delivers that to guys, and if guys know that is the benefit of Bumble, then a lot of your work's done for you.
That's really funny.
And to
Really
answer,
funny. Like the whole class action lawsuit and the guys behind it. Yeah.
so I get
wow,
like $30 or something. But to answer Adonis's question, it doesn't really matter if you start it first or they start first. What matters is, do you set the tone and the context and the frame first? That's really what matters.
The interaction.
Because sometimes you get girls that like will hit you up and they're just looking for a sugar daddy, and then you could turn that interaction into something where it's like, yeah, you know what? Go fleece other guys for purses or whatever, but if you want to like come out and actually like hang out and have fun and a good time, then come see me. So
I've started offering them
So
to
like,
work
what do you
for
guys
me,
do
and
when
those are funny responses?
So what do you guys do when women come at you with stuff like follow my Instagram, like sign up for my OnlyFans, I'm looking for a sugar daddy? Like, what do you do?
Media
then?
out.
Yeah.
So
Just laugh and leave.
Here's how I've had it happen to me, where I'm like, hey, look, because they can tell usually. Here's another thing I didn't know until I was starting to chat with a lot of these gals. Your name comes up. I have my first and last name on there. So as soon as they match, they can actually see both, right? Mm. And so I'm a pretty easy Google search. So I don't get a lot of that stuff. What I do get is I'll say, hey, look, I'm a pretty busy guy. Like, let's meet for a drink or two. If it works out, we'll plan something else in the future, but I don't want to waste a lot of our time. And I'll get the girls that say like, well, I want to go on a proper date and I want to be taken out to dinner. I'm like, okay, then you probably need to go see somebody else, because I've got way too much stuff going on. And you literally you guys know how it is. You like run through these chicks like, this one's crazy. This one's got this one. Like, you could tell within a couple of drinks. It's like, all right, this is, I got to move on here.
The girls that do that kind of stuff are losing on their side of the game. So if you look at it, it's all just a game. And if you approach it just like having fun, and the more people that play the game, the more the cheaper you're going to sell yourself, because the market's saturated. So these girls that are like, oh, I want a proper date. Okay, you're 29, looks are fading. Maybe you didn't take care of yourself. Your skin's starting to age. I've got a 20-year-old who's game to do anything I want. And she's on the way over now if I want her to. So who are you competing? A lot of girls don't realize that they're competing in a sexual marketplace too. So for me, those kind of ones, I'm like, I'm nice, I'm cordial, but you learn to play the game like a girl does, essentially, with guys. You learn to dismiss them, just let them down real soft, real easy. Yeah. You don't want to scorn them, because then they'll follow you on social media and stalk you. And
bottom line is, it's not genuine desire, because she's trying to negotiate something with you. Like, follow me for, become one of my beta orbiters, or give me money, or give me money over here so you can look at pictures of my butthole or whatever. Like,
I think it's important to double down on Wingman's point, though, as far as leading. I think it's funny, because I think a lot of guys gravitate to Bumble because most dudes are so what's the biggest question that guys in pickup or talking to chicks get asked? How do you open a girl? What do I say to her? What do I say?
My name is
right, but I'm saying, like, so guys go to Bumble, and that's a really interesting one, because it's a code. It's like, oh, cool, like, now the work is done for me, and they don't understand that 99.99% of girls don't have game, and they open with the same boring BS that a guy was like, hey, how's it going? Hey, how was your weekend? Or some bullshit like pancakes or waffles, and guys are pissed, and they're like, what the hell is this? And
they're low tier women on those apps, man. Don't waste your time.
When girls would do that with me, I don't even address it. I just go in and I start the conversation on something completely different. I don't answer the question. I don't answer how my weekend was. I just say, I'm now in control of this conversation. I'm leading it where I want to go. And 99% of the time, they don't care, because they just want the burden off of them of having to make the small talk and the BS. I just take it on a completely different tangent.
Women get incredibly frustrated with the amount of work that they put into dating with the returns that they get. Trust me, like, there's not a lot of guys that have game. Like the stuff that we're talking about here is level 10 shit. Like, pay attention tonight, guys. What's up, Paul?
What's up, man? How do I sound? I don't know.
Yeah, you sound good.
Muffled.
You sound good.
It's a little muffled, but we can hear you. One of the things I found is I absolutely love. There you go. I absolutely love going out and picking up. Like, here's what I found. It's like, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, none of that shit matters. Like, oh, this is the opener. just say it with a little bit of confidence. So there's a couple of guys I'll go out with, and we've got some rules. So let's say there's a table of girls, 4 or 5 girls. You really want that 50% ratio. You don't want like all these dudes, kind of like hunting these handful of chicks, right? And so the deal I got with some buddies of mine, I said, look, if you think she's cute, you can go over there and introduce yourself or whatever you think game is. You can go do that. So they get about 30 seconds. And I tried this, to be honest, we were at happy hour and I was a couple of drinks in. I'm like, I'm going to let this one rip. So I lean over to this table of girls and I said, hey, my gay boyfriend thinks you're cute. They all start laughing. Obviously, we're not gay, right? I mean, you can tell in 2 seconds. But what was fun is the one guy gets up and goes.
Don't read the comments afterward, Jason.
So,
fair warning.
Yeah, because they're going to say that's self-deprecating, bro. You shouldn't do that. It's low value, whatever. But we had a great time. And I think with a lot of this dating app and a lot of this stuff, like you had said earlier, Rich, like these guys spurg out on this stuff. And it's like, it's not that hard, dude. Just be confident and just say, look, this is how I do it. We start matching, we chat for a couple minutes. Okay, great. Look, I'm not on these apps all the time. So here's my number. Send me a text. Or you can give me your number and I'll text you. I don't care. Here's my number. We'll text back and forth, right? And then you're immediately like, now you're going back and forth. Okay, cool. I can meet you Tuesday. Well, I can do Thursday. Sorry, I can't see you till next week. Like guys are making this way harder than it needs to be. Like I kind of look at it as sales. It's like all I'm trying to do is get in front of the opportunity here. And maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe it's just a prospect and not an opportunity, but let's get in front. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah, but JB, let's talk about that real quick, right?
Okay.
Because this is something that like this be confident thing, right? I mean, confidence comes from competence. So, I mean, it's one of those things, where does that come from, right? I mean, you have a high degree of success. You have, experience now. You've got wins that you've stacked. If we're talking to the everyman here, I mean, I equate be confident almost or if on the same plane as just be yourself. Because it's like, where does it, like, how do I build off of that? It's like, where does confidence come from, right? So, I mean, how do I get there?
So,
because I think fake it till you make it is, I don't buy it. Because I think if we know anything about women and how good they are at picking up on covert communication and BS, they're better at picking up than we are as guys. So they can smell that.
Generally speaking, both Moff and Bible mean the same thing. It's just Bible's definition of confidence, can be expanded on different ways, right? I mean, you could literally message a chick, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and if you look like the hot dude from the phone cannon party and you got your shit together and you have a wonderful life that she looks like she might want to be invited into to hang out with, she'll be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
What I would say to answer,
she'll look at your Instagram and be like, "Oh, you're hot. Like,
Yeah.
Are you in town? What are you doing? What plans this weekend?" They'll come to you if you present them a good enough opportunity or a representation of what your lifestyle is like. But another thing is, you actually have to live that lifestyle. So if you
100%.
project it, and there's still a gap between reality and what I call the analog world and the digital world. If you can bridge that gap in your life online, it reflects your life in real life in the analog world, then it's a lot easier, because then essentially I just invite girls to join my day. My day's already interesting. So just if you show up, great. If not, my day's still going to be great. So
I mean, to Moff's point, I think to address his question, what I would say is that, I would translate be confident and be yourself, right, as to go out there and try, right? Because, all right, again, talking to the guy that's, hey, I just turned 23. I'm starting from ground zero, some scratch, right? The idea and thought of like, oh, I'm going to go out and like have this confidence and swag, right? It's probably going to seem like, you're talking about, hey, let's get from here to Mars. So I would say like, what the core message is, hey, go out and try, right? You have to go out and try different things. You have to go out and you have to make those approaches, whether they're virtual approaches where you're talking to people online and trying to get matches, or they're in-person approaches. You have to go out and you have to try. It's a continuous learning process. And from that, you start to build and piece together elements that you can then incorporate into an overall formula that really works for yourself. And you can kind of discover your own sort of personal science that really enables you to maximize the connections that you're having and the direction you want to take them. So that would be the advice I'd
give. That's the exact breakdown I think that's important to differentiate. I think that we need to take it that step further and granulate it a little bit.
Yeah, just go out there and try.
Let me just throw this at you, because I mean, like, this is like the standard thing that I see guys do. They just want to fucking complicate their lives. It's like, if you live in a small town and you want access to more beautiful women, then you have to move.
Get on a plane.
you can't fucking hope them to just show up on a train like one day or to come into the bus, terminal in the city, like a bus full of Swedish bikini models that are going to now live in your town. It doesn't happen. Like, you have to move to, like, if I want to drive on winding roads, I got to move to a part of the country where there's mountains. I'm not going to find it living in Saskatchewan, Ontario, or wherever it's flat, right?
Well, a good suggestion for you, I would say, is especially if you're in that small town, right? Is like, if you're thinking about moving to a bigger area, right? Because a wise fisherman goes where the fish are. If you're thinking about moving to an area, then, get some maps, but set your location in that area so you can already start to pre-scout some things. And then, hey, maybe you take a weekend trip out there and maybe you meet one or two people that you talk with, or you just at least get a sense of, okay, I'm thinking about moving to LA or Miami. You know what? I'm going to get some dating apps, and then I'm going to start messaging people in LA and in Miami, and then see just in general which one do I tend to vibe with more. And then you can be strategic.
Yeah, I like that.
I'd back up even further. Unless there's some reason you're in that town because you've got some great business or something like that. Guys like that, when I see messages like that, I'm like, you need to read Bachelor Pad Economics, and you need to go find a city that's got real opportunities. And a 60,000 person city ain't having it. Like, to go back to Moff's point, and I think this will bring it all full circle, is you've got to be accomplished in other areas of your life. Period.
Yep.
You can't. Why the hell would some chick want to hang out with some loser? Like, if you don't have the rest of your shit together, what are you doing on a dating app? What are you doing bringing women into your life? You don't even know who you are, and now I'm going to bring this other person in. She really, let's be honest, most women don't really know who they are either, and that's okay. That's kind of how they're designed to a certain extent. So,
but if you can help them figure that out, then they're yours.
Right. So, but it's something Ryan had said years ago when I watched one of his shows. He's like, women come in 7th place. Here's the other 6 things you should be doing.
Exactly.
And woman is 7 down here. So,
but you can build them into your day. So, like, it's like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. Like, oh, do I want to have woman today? Like,
right. Well,
and figure out how to do it.
But the point of a man's life is not a chick.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, you don't wake up and spring out of bed and jump into action to conquer the world because, maybe I'll get laid tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's
wait, you guys don't do that? Oh, am I the only one that? Oh, okay.
I mean, my bad. We've been there, though. Like, I've been there.
I'm doing this whole thing wrong.
We've all been there, man.
Yeah, you're like, I've got everything on paper.
Well, yeah.
Miserable.
Well, but here's where I see the opposite of it in the red pill space, and that is, it's all about notch counts. And I'm like, dude, I do not have time to do 4 hours of freaking day game and 4 chicks a week. Man, I got too much other stuff going on. It's like
notch count is a sign of a deficient. Your ego will take over. If you're into notch counts, it's a sign of a weak personality that has to get a high notch count so he can go tell his bros how many chicks he banged to feel good about himself instead of stacking his bank account.
That's right. And so what are you really doing? You're really in their frame.
Do any of you guys count your notches?
I track every
general idea, but I don't know.
I track.
So some guys
MLB would have a fit.
So listen, if you're trying to achieve a goal, tracking isn't good. You have to track your behavior so that you can modify your behavior. So, like, if somebody is going from not getting girls at all to needing to get girls, you need to track their behavior in some way. If I'm coaching,
I can see mine grow exponentially over the last 7 years. Like 0, 3, 6, 18, 30. Like it literally, it's exponential, the growth. And now I don't have to. It's just whenever I want. Because
and so now, but the main thing is, so that's tracking results. But like when I coach a guy, I'm more tracking the action, the activity. So, okay,
are
how
they
many times are
calibrating
you
their
going
behavior
out?
correctly?
Right. How many times are you approaching? Now, from those approaches, how many number closes or social media closes did you get? How many of those translated into this? That's how I track, because that's not an ego measure. That's an action-based measure that actually gets you results. So when I'm coaching somebody, that's what I have them do. If they want to track their lays because they want to feel good about that, cool. If they don't, cool. When I was figuring this stuff, I just wanted to, have sex with women and have access and all. Right? So I mean, it wasn't a matter about I wasn't using it as this ego measure. So I lost track a long time ago. I think the problem is, though, these guys on the internet. I mean, there's enough weirdos on the internet that can make up anything they want. I've had sex with 75,000 people. how do you guys know I didn't do that? You know, I mean, okay, you're right. I've had sex with 1,600 people. How do you know that? Like, how do you? Can we do really
these girls take
prove
videos now.
that?
Like they will ask you to take videos, and they treat them like baseball cards. So that's how they keep track.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I feel
Maybe there's
about.
an
I don't know if I have
NFT,
political
NFT
aspirations
business we can
someday,
make out
so I
of
don't know
this.
that.
Oh,
I mean, like-
NFTs for legs. That's
business.
hilarious.
Right? NFTs
like-
for notch counts or something.
Yeah, I mean, I know my
Right.
number, but it's
I've
more
had a
about
lot of girls. It's a new thing for me. They've started like a lot of them, the young ones. Hey, you don't have to show your face. Just can we do this? And I think they trade them amongst each other because I've had girls come in and say, "Oh, my friend sent me this or that." I'm like, okay, is there another sub marketplace that I'm entering? Cool.
You know what's funny? Like one of the
Girls
funniest.
are doing that now too. Huh? That's
One of the funniest things
marriage
I ever.
material, right, guys?
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there, guys. I'm not trying to boast. It blows my mind too.
One of the funniest things I saw on one of y'all's Rule Zero podcast when somebody started talking about dick pics, and I'm like, Sterling Cooper's like, I don't even have dick pics, and I'm like, I'm like, that's the guy's job.
Yeah. So
right?
so
Yes,
what's the
hilarious.
rule with dick pics then? Like, you know,
I
how
have
do you
no
guys
idea.
handle that?
Never do it.
What do you do if
No.
a chick says send me a picture of your?
I've gotten a
vagina?
lot of requests.
So
Yeah.
I've gotten
my
a lot.
dick's awesome, so I don't care.
Yeah.
It's and on the internet. You guys can go search Apex Mindset dick pics. Probably find it. Not really. Okay, not really. But if I'm already,
As long as
if
it's
I'm-
detached from my
Your
face,
trolls are gonna go
whatever.
looking for it.
yeah. They're like, oh boy. If I'm already,
Yeah, like
if I'm already
that could be
involved with
anyone's
someone,
dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
that's
I'm not
true.
gonna lie to
Yeah,
that
right.
either.
It's 15 inches long and purple. All right, it's mine, I swear. But if I'm involved with somebody, my rule is this: they see it first, then okay. Like I want them to see it in person before pics. Pics, lots of requests, whatever, things like that. Sure, have at it, girls. I don't care. And if I get exposed, this is what it looks like. It's only going to increase my female followers. I don't give a shit.
If you want to work around for that,
About what I'm scoring doesn't matter to me. But I don't want to use this as a measure or to try to get the girl. I think that's a bit weak. And that actually comes from a deficiency in the guy fearing rejection. So hear me out on this. It's like guys are so weak now that they want acceptance for what their junk is before they're in front of her and they actually show the goods, right? They want the girl to go, wow, that's an amazing penis, mister.
I was going to comment
Like,
on that. A lot of times, if they ask
I'd
for
say
it,
it's a red
you're
flag
not
if a
gonna
chick
get
asks
anywhere-
for
You're
it.
not going to get anywhere
Oh,
with
hell
them
yeah.
because
Yeah.
for sure.
they're looking for attention, or it's not a joke. There's like a undercover, like low key, like gay guy, maybe posing as a
be,
girl
yeah.
because they.
Yeah.
I've come in
Exactly.
Mexico. That happens a lot. I've
You
come
should-
across
you
it.
should definitely not be
You can
sen-
sense them. You know who they are.
Yeah, you should not be
Yeah.
sending pictures of your junk, like especially if you're somebody of
Yeah. What the
notoriety
point I'm
out
making
there.
is
Like,
it
if your
doesn't
name's
work anymore.
Googleable,
Yeah. Like
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be doing that.
Well, and that said, if your name is Googleable and your face isn't attached to the picture, they're not going to know it's yours. But
Right.
I wouldn't send them to guys send them to girls as if they're going to entice them with their anatomy to meet
Yeah.
up.
yeah,
Very ridiculous and weak way of handling things, and that happens all the time. It's crazy.
would not recommend.
No.
All right, so let's get back to the filling your calendar with dates thing. Like, do you guys have any strategies that you use with filling your calendar? Because I mean, like one of the things that I used to do is I used to just like triple book them in an afternoon. It's like, okay, I got a Sunday afternoon off. I got a 1 o'clock, a 2:30, and a 4, whatever, something like that.
Yep, I stagger them. So the one I like best, like I'll try to get earlier so I can spend the whole day. But if she flakes, the one I like best usually is the one who's going to flake most because she's probably a little higher in SMV. So if she flakes, whatever, I'll do whatever else I had planned. The next girl comes through, so that always gives me the option to cancel on the other one. Which girls all know the game. They do that to us all the time too. Like 50% of them will flake. And that's a good flake rate for me. Usually it was like 66% or 80% before, so you get flake rate down. But I stagger them, and then that way, if I get a really cool one, and a lot of times where I live now, they have to go early because they all live with their parents until they're married. So I'm like, oh, this is a late night chick, or this is an early afternoon chick, or this is a midday chick. And if they cancel, okay, well, I'll just put a creative work block in there, or I'll get ahead on my sprint for the next couple weeks. I'm talking workflows. So just be flexible with it. And I schedule tentative, knowing of 3, 1 will come through. Sometimes they all come through. Sometimes none come through. And just
How
have
many
other
dates a
stuff
week would you
scheduled in
normally
your
book?
time.
How many dates a week, would you normally book, Jaron?
Ooh, a week. I go tentative like 2 or 3 days out, but that's because I'm in a place where it's like naturally kind of a high flake culture already, aside from the central marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've
Is that
found
like with Latins? Like you
that,
find that Latins are higher flakers?
well, yeah, they'll forget
With
to have
apps.
plans, or their family comes first too. So they'll
Right.
have like legitimate reasons, like, oh, my grandma's dog got hit by a car in 2 states away, so I have to drive over there. And like that's the actual excuse. That's what she's doing.
Yeah.
So you have to account for cultural differences too. So I found if there's certain times during the day, like 8 p.m., I can jump on there. There's going to be inbounds on Bumble, like, hey, what are you doing tonight? It says in my profile what the experience is. Hey, that sounds great. I would love to cuddle and smoke weed and play guitar. Oh, I sing. Great. Oh, do you play an oboe? Cool. Bring it over. Like 8 p.m. seems to be on a Sunday night, especially seems to be that. So in the moment, or day game works too, because no one's doing it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I was gonna say.
Okay, so let's just keep moving around. So, like, your best
Yep.
tips to fill your calendar with dates.
I know where we're going. So which way?
Whoever
which
wants
way
to
we
go
going?
next.
Well, one of the things you can convey is that you're in need of a date. As most of you guys, who follow me on Instagram, I'm either cooking or I'm doing something in my yard or I'm out on my bike. So I'm not going to be running around, oh, I need a date. I'm just like, yeah, happens. Something comes up, whatever. Like, it's, again, if you convey a need, you're toast. If you convey a need and ask someone how their weekend was, you're toast.
Yeah, I would say as far as scheduling goes, usually it depends on how big the pipeline is and how aggressive you want to get with it. Like the most amount of girls I've ever seen at once was 3 in one day, back to back. And one was a total disaster, one was phenomenal, and the other one was like literally meeting like the top tier like Darth Vader version of a female, where this girl, if she wanted to get a house or a jet or whatever out of me, she could have gotten it. Her game was right on point. But that's a whole other conversational topic.
It's a numbers game, right? I mean, that's why you have to work face to face. Because in real life is always different from this shit.
Right. And I would also say that
where I'm at now, with sheer population density alone, I think there's like 30 million people in this like cram metro. I get 2 or 3 inbounds a day without even touching the app. It might not be what I want, but it's potentially, hey, what are you doing tonight? Oh, cool. I see you're in town. Oh, like I'm going to be over there later today. Those are all invitations to initiate conversation and move things forward.
And I would say
that's sheer population density.
Yeah, and I would say that qualifying, like having a pretty aggressive qualification process is key, because like my flake rate right now is about maybe 10%. So like for every 10 girls that I schedule for a date that I meet off of an app or anything, only one of them winds up flaking on me.
I wanted to talk about flaking too, because like your flake rate, Jaron, was real high, compared to what I
that's
remember.
high.
Mine's closer to like Renegades, like maybe like 1 in 10 would flake on me.
And I'm here in LA, which is like, like you want to talk about one of the places where people are like
flaking's part of the game. Like flaking's always part of the game. She gets back together with her boyfriend or some shit. Like something happens, right? Like it happens.
Yeah.
I've started adding more qualifying questions too, like oh hey, are you free the entire night, or is it just gonna be a meet and greet type thing? And then if she says, oh, I don't know how long, but great, well, I'll do an hour. Keep your night open if you wanted to extend it. If you can't keep it open, then let's do another night when you're free. So you start eliminating those potential flake things, like, oh, I'm gonna try this guy out, and if I like him, there's another guy, and he's a maybe plan. You start kind of weeding them out on the front end, and then my flake rate, I think I mentioned the community a couple weeks ago. It was to the point where I was booking 3 a day and all of them came through. I'm like, oh God. And that is a logistics nightmare. You don't want to do that. It ruins your whole day.
So I'd say for those guys
I was like, all right, now I get to be more selective. Like now I just literally get to choose.
Well, I'd also say for guys starting out, you should just, stick to 1 a day and always have like a backup plan where it's like, hey, if this girl doesn't show up, then either you go with a friend, or like for me, I got a ton of other side projects. So it's like, all right, this girl doesn't show up. All right, I'm going to keep working on this side project this night, and then we'll see what happens the next night. So for guys that are first starting, 1 a day is plenty, and it gives you enough to think about.
That's a new rule for me now, and now it's like going to be like 2 or 3 a week maybe, because you don't want to put your whole day around it, but it does zap your energy too. And I like having creative, ready to go energy for guys in other communities that tap into that stuff.
All right, Paul. Let me
so Rich, one of your sorry, go ahead, Paul. You were going to say.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, so what. My flake rate was very, very, very low after a point. Mm-hmm. And I noticed it's a difference between day gaming and apps. So apps tends to be a lot faster. So you're making connections faster, having quicker conversations, having quicker closes. What that means is there's less emotional buy-in for that meetup. There's less investment for them. So you're just going to have more. The general rule is the less invested that they seem and the less time you've had to build that investment, the more chances that they're going to flake. So that's an increased flake rate. So sticking to the apps versus more or less approaches, you're just going to have more flakes with the apps. Now, I primarily was somebody who I would game people on evening, daytime, whatever, as I went about my life, because that may allow me to be really selective on who I wanted to hang out with. And if you have enough hot girls around you in where you're at, the population's good enough, you have enough selection. And if you're good at that, then you can, once you make that connection with somebody, you can get some investment from that initial conversation. I'm usually going what I call 2 or 3 levels deep, immediate, like pretty quick in a conversation, and they're having some fun. And then, I do that close. It might be just a number, social media close. They go to my social media. It's high DHVs on social media. If it's number, the texting now back and forth is pretty limited. And usually I get a lot less flaking. So that was the thing, being more selective with that. So that's just something to think about. And when you're talking, as far as apps are concerned, I would actually intentionally not close because I had too many girls I was, had on my plate. And so I would not close a lot more often. I would look to a little conversation here, send a funny meme. Then I might get in a little bit deep, like, tell me about that, or what made you choose that thing, and I would get deeper than just surface conversations, which would make them a little bit more invested. And then I'd go several days, if not weeks, maybe a week or so without talking to them. And so now that naturally demonstrated higher value. She knows I'm dating. I must be dating other women, which was the case. And so now when I go to close with her, she's already had a few conversations and she's already interested and curious provided she continued to talk with me, right, and have those conversations. And then my flake rate is a lot less, once I go to close.
One of the things that's really, really important to minimize your flake rate is to only deal with women that have genuine desire in you. Like, you'll know it, okay? Like, it should be obvious that she digs your vibe. I'm like, one of the obvious signs is that she's going to start to ask you some questions. And not just like, boring shit like, what do you do for a living? Like, she's going to be like asking you questions like, hey, that third picture is really interesting. Where were you when you were on that boat with those other 2 guys that looked like a party, sort of thing, right? Because she's interested in what goes on in your life. And that starts to lower the flake rate too. Irishman, you wanted to say something before Paul started?
Yeah, one of the, again, when you're doing performance measurement versus your old mistakes that got you nothing versus what we've learned in the community. And one rule that I've really adhered to was something you mentioned, Rich, was like, first day, let's go and grab a coffee. And that just weeds out a whole ton of crap, because if a girl's really interested in you, she'll be like, yeah, sure, we'll grab a coffee at such and such downtown. And if she's a flake, if she wants, because a lot of times you'll hear chicks say this in conversation, oh yeah, I'll go on a date with them, and they'll pick, some nice high-end restaurant downtown where you'll end up dropping $350 on a meal for 2 with a whole ton of cocktails, and then you'll get a little peck on the cheek. Though. Yeah, and you'll get LJBF'd at the end of the night, but you're $350 lighter. So that's something I stuck hard and fast to, which is great. And as I said, like, 2 of the main things I have learned in here is stick to that and just inject your personality into game as well.
Yeah. Well, also,
and have some.
To build on that, I would say, like, talk to everybody, because a lot of times guys get in this thing where it's like, oh, I only need to talk to like a 9 or a 10. Like, whatever. If you're matching with girls that are all 5s and you're just starting out, like, again, life is a contact sport. The more people you contact, the better that you'll do. And so, like I said, back in last year when I was
guys that say that I only talk to like 9s or 10s are never 10s themselves.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like what I said.
Talk to all women the same. Like, I'm flirty with every woman I talk to, even the little cleaning ladies that come in. Yeah,
exactly.
Because other women
are hot. Does she have nice boobies?
This guy makes women
feel good. Them? Say hi.
Yeah, just learn how to talk to women in general.
I kind of take the
goof.
I kind of take the Tate approach when I hear guys say 9s and 10s, and I'm like, bro, you ain't even seeing 10s.
Yeah.
Like you're in your life, they're not randomly at the club. They're at some high-end club behind the VIP. Bro, you ain't seeing 10s.
No.
Like I just got back from Vegas for a week, and I'm like,
you don't get a lot of
me, bro,
9s and
not.
10s on dating apps to begin
No,
with. So
they're not on
like,
dating
chill
apps.
out, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
again,
the biggest people guys lie about is the SMV the girls are seeing, how many girls are seeing, and of course whether or not they have frame or not. That's always fun. Guys
Go to the
start
gym
off a
between 6
conversation.
and 8 a.m. in any like kind of middle upper income tier in any city anywhere in the world, and there's where your 8s, 9s, and 10s are at. They're not out at the clubs. They're not doing. They're railing blow until the sun comes up. They're at their gym where you need to be at those hours or
Let me
whenever.
get a few of these super chats out of the way because they're piling up a bit. So the more wins you have, the more chicks you have. Would you guys agree? That just falls in line with like women wait at the finish line and they pick winners, right? So if you have a winning type of life, then it's going to be easier for you to have more women in your life. It's not rocket science.
In the game, it's exponential. It's like when you play sports. I was a baseball player. It's like when you're on a streak. I could go out and party all night, wake up like, oh, barely make it to the game. Know that I'm gonna like probably hit for the cycle that day. Or there's times when you're in a slump, you're like doing all the ritualistic stuff on the when you're in the circle on batter's deck, and you're like, God, you widen your stance, like just get on base, like don't strike out, don't be an ass. It's kind of like that. So when you start getting results at it, it magnifies, and I think it's energy. Like it sounds
it snowballs,
hooty tooty, but women communicate that way. Like when they can feel you have good energy, that confidence you get of just knowing I can walk around and like
women want to be with a guy that other women want to be with.
They can feel that.
She could like when she comes over, she looks around. She's looking for fingerprints on your mirror that look like female fingerprints. She's looking for like female clothing. She's
Other
looking
girls'
for
hairs,
jewelry, like these random leave behinds, right?
Who owns this sugar scrub in your bathtub?
Right. Yeah. Sugar scrub in your bathtub.
And that's what I was trying to say on the forum a couple of weeks ago. That the chick I'm seeing at the moment like pulled me aside and said, it wasn't an ultimatum. It was essentially what they're covert communicators, and she was essentially saying, I'm terrified that you have the potential to see lots of women, and I need to get rid of that terror. And for me to get rid of that terror, I need to say you're going to commit to me. And as usual, I obfuscated and I just, moved on.
Did you have to let her go, or like where are you at with that?
Oh no, it's still going good. I mean, I actually like this chick, but again, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be me from a couple of months.
Yeah, it's way too early to like have the.
You need to be a good man and wife her up like the Lord.
Oh yeah. No, but it's just listen. I'm just with the advice I've got here. I'm in a position I've never been in before with women, which is, holding frame, having a girl with genuine burning desire, and expressing to me that she's full of dread because, she's like. She said to me, "Oh, you talk about this Chad Thundercock guy all the time." She said, "You seem like you're worse than him." I said,
You've been reading my book in the file section in Versus Community.
Patty O'Brien is what maybe we should call him. From your neck of the woods.
There we go.
I want to go back real quick and talk just about flake rate. So I think for me that I'm trying to minimize that as much as possible. So I've never been the guy that's been
don't want to waste your
having
time.
a date at noon and then 3 and then 7. Like I'm a nighttime date guy. I've never been a coffee guy. I just my version is what I try to do is I want to make it as easy a lift on the chick as possible. So I mean, being in New York, public transportation is super easy. Where I am in the city, I can get anywhere in 30 minutes usually or less. So it's really simple. And that's and this is something that I talked to Fitch about when I was out in San Jose. Was he disqualifies super early. Like his first message to chicks is like, "Hey, like, are you into bondage or whatever it is?" And it's like if they're into, he's like, "Cool, like let's roll." So for me, like I've always been go for the kill kind of early, and that's if I know, if a girl, I can tell really off the bat if a girl's just wasting time getting attention. If I ask her out and I get no response.
When you say go for the kill, is it like ask for the date?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, when are you free to get together? When are you free to meet for a drink?
Yeah.
Right. And so if I can get past
I
that
was all
hurdle,
about that too, because then that eliminates the, well, I just want to get to know you here first
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's like, no.
and I don't
We're not
even
doing
respond
that.
to that. And I know that Paul talks a little bit about, I think, maybe the times have changed a little bit, and there is some comfort to be built, and you may need to do a little bit of that. And yeah, obviously there's going to be a little less investment, I think, for sure. But I've also found, I kind of have this system where it's like, look, this blueprint on how do I make it easy and lower my flake rate as much as possible. So being in New York, I find out which days this week are you free, which neighborhood, not like what's your address, what neighborhood are you in, what part of the city. Then I'll pick a place
Right.
near
That's all you
there,
ask is
pick
what
an
part of the
exact
city you're in,
time,
yeah.
and then and also I think what gets overlooked a lot of time with guys is how much time, or I think 2 to 3 days out is that sweet spot. If it's the very next day, it looks like you don't have anything going on. If it's 4 or 5 days or longer, then you run the risk, because if you're smart,
far
you
ahead.
make the date and then you get off the phone and you're not
Yeah.
busy texting them all the time. Then 4 or 5 days go by and they're like, well, I haven't heard from this guy, so I'm going to make other plans. So like that 2 to 3 day window, the sort of 48 to 72 hour window in their neighborhood, or something that makes it easy for them to walk to you and then potentially walk her back to her place. Those are the things that I implement to really cut down on flake rate.
I think it's really important to get to the date quick, though, because one of the things that always frustrated me is women men tend to lie about their status and their height on dating apps. Women tend to lie about what they look like. They usually use older photography from flattering angles, the right kind of lighting, and definitely cropped. They'll crop out anything that doesn't look flattering. So I always found it very useful to try to rather than not waste my time doing this shit for days. It's like, hey, you dig my vibe, I dig yours. Let's meet up, grab a drink, and see what the IRL situation looks like. And you check her out in person, right?
The hour-long date. I literally
it.
tell them it's an hour-long date. I was like, if you think this could go somewhere, keep your night open. You're gonna have a good night. If not, I'll cut it off too. And there are times where I get girls like, hey, 20 minutes in, you're just like, we just don't vibe.
Dude,
but
I've
let's
shown
watch.
up
We have the
and
hour
been
open.
you look
I'm not
nothing
cool
like
at
your
all.
pictures. I'm out of here, right? You have to be ferocious with this, right? Let these catfish know, what they're all about.
What you
There's
gotta,
some different ideas when you guys get them on.
It doesn't happen that often,
some
but when it
di- I have
happens,
some
it's just
different
like,
ideas
damn.
on
Yeah.
Well, but I'll tell you what fixes a lot of this stuff. If you guys have so much other stuff going on in your life, I am 1 to 2 dates a week. That's it. I got too much other stuff going on. So it's we meet, I can already tell, this ain't work. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Out, because I probably have dinner with investors or doing something else. So it's if you guys really, and I can't emphasize this enough, and Rich, you're kind of known as the do the work guy. It's if you got all this other stuff going on, you don't have time but for a woman that really wants to be in your life. You got too much other stuff going on.
I would
And it fixes a lot
slightly.
of-
That's driving you a couple points here.
I agree completely.
I would slightly counter that with, especially for the guys that are coming up and learning and building that experience bracket, what you want to do is you want to go out and you just want to have you want to learn how to have fun, right? Because I've gone out with I remember one example that stands out really well is I went out with this girl. She was a little bit older, a little bit more set and professional in her career. And I could tell within the first, 10 minutes that, we're not going to really vibe or be a long-term thing. But I was like, we're here. We're at a cool spot. I just came out here to have a good, fun time and sharing that. And we wound up actually having a really delightful, really great, really fun time. Again, nothing happened with it. Nothing, came out of it. But at the end of the day, it's hey, I came here, I had fun. And so I was able to really translate that experience and be able to internalize it. So that way for the next time, it's okay, now I know a baseline template of staying in the frame, right? My frame is I'm going to go out, have fun, have a good time. So no matter what this other person brings, either they're going to add to it or we're just maybe not going to vibe and not going to click. And I think that's something for a lot of guys that don't necessarily have the experience or the confidence level yet, right? To be, oh yeah, I've got 3 girls lined up and 10 minutes in, I can say no. For a lot of guys, wait, I got 1 girl off a dating app, my first time in 4 months. This is going to be completely brand new. So it's going to be for those guys getting their skill and their experience up. It's hey, make sure that you guys go in, maintain some frame and have a little bit of fun. But again, go through that experience because you're going to learn a lot about yourself and about how you handle certain situations. So that way you can get to a level where, hey, if you've got 2 or 3 girls lined up and you don't vibe with one, right, you can cut them off. Because I think that's something that a lot of times in the space we forget looking back is like, hey, a lot of guys are starting from like ground zero. Like we've been here, like, all right, cool for us, like, hitting a home run or grand slam, all right, whatever. It's like routine. But for a lot of guys, like it's their first time at bat in the pros and they're getting a 100-mile-an-hour pitch for the very first time. And that could be scary. It could be intimidating. There could be a lot going through your head. So, don't lose focus for you guys that are new and out there and are just figuring out this space. I would definitely encourage you guys to say, like, kind of go through it. And there's going to be a little bit of growing pains in there too. And then you're going to get to the point.
Most of my guys, Renegade, are probably 30 plus. I mean, I get some sub 30s, watching my stuff, but most of the guys are a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but to bring up a good point, it's like you're not. There is none of this knowledge that you're going to obtain that's going to allow you to have zero losses.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Like,
yep.
So the biggest difference between somebody who's really successful with women and gets what they want and somebody who's struggling that I've noticed is that the person who is struggling is very focused on their L's. They're like, they'll come to me and consult. Man, all right, so I opened these couple chicks. This didn't work out. Well, here's what I said. Then she goes to me, and what do I do? Okay, yeah, there is a certain level of after-action review to look at your own behavior and your game and see where you need to improve. But that focus isn't on some girl that you've never actually gone out with yet. You know what I mean? It's just on your own behavior. You correct your behavior, you move forward. Guys who are doing really well with women, they can't tell you how many girls they open it didn't work out or how many girls ghost. They're not even sure because they have so many dates. Point, Paul.
Let me just jump in here and add to that L point because I've done consults like one-on-one calls since about 2016. So I've done well over 1,000 now. I've had a lot of guys that have come to me with the I'm not getting good results. I'm closing 1 out of 20. The first question that I ask them, and this is the first question that you should be asking yourself, guys, is on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself and put you on that. Take a good look at the mirror and rate yourself, and put yourself on that scale. And if you're sitting like a 6 or a 7 or below, you've got work to do. Like I'll ask them questions like, okay, well, how tall are you? I'm 6'1", and what do you weigh? Well, I'm a little bit overweight at 296 pounds. Dude, that's not a little bit overweight. Okay? Are you built like a fucking wrestler or a bodybuilder, or are you built like a fat, tub of lard, right? Like, let's take an honest assessment here, right? Because
if you are overweight, you better be funny. You better be smart. You better be interesting.
Or rich as fuck too. But
you got to have.
But I mean, there's stuff that you got to do, to get the results that you're looking to get to start out with, because. I mean, I covered this in my book, and I'll go over it again right now. Is they've collected all the data from these dating apps, and women will only swipe right on guys that they deem an 8 out of 10 or better. They don't care if they're a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 swipe right on 8 out of 10 guys. Women are hypergamous. They're always looking to get the better, bigger, greater deal, right? So if you're on a dating app and you're like a 4 out of 10 and you're overweight and you got a bad haircut and terrible style and nothing interesting going on in your life, don't just delete the app, get rid of it, get a gym membership, go to a dojo, lift weights, start a side hustle, do something to become interesting, because guys like this are the ones tearing it up right now.
Yeah.
I remember
you have to be able to present yourself as, you have to be able to present yourself as in that top 20%. Now, what's good is that what's good, or for some of you guys, you're not quite at that top 20%. You can internet present yourself like that anyway. But so many guys, as an indicator of probably how they feel about themselves, don't put the effort into the presentation with their photos and how they appear. She thinks when you're talking to her that you look like your worst picture on your photos in your app. Your worst picture is what she thinks she's talking to. So if you have 5 decent pictures and 1 dorky ass picture, she thinks she's talking to a dorky ass guy. Yep. So you have to present yourself as best as you can in that category. And then another thing that is different than face to face.
We'll talk about pictures tonight too. I think.
Right. Another thing
Although I post dorky
different-
pictures, but that's for a different reason, to show that I do have a dorky side.
But here's the
Yeah,
thing:
but I mean, you also have
you're a
pictures of
good-looking
yourself and
guy.
you're like your Rip
Posting
Chad
a dorky picture is
six-pack
not
abs.
the same.
But that's
Big
based
one,
on
right?
that's based on feedback. That's like that's girls coming over like, oh, I thought you were gonna be an asshole. Like, you're actually really cool. I really like you.
Where's the
You're like,
Dungeons and Dragons
like,
picture?
what are you gonna do now?
Hang on a second. I gotta.
I'm just here playing D&D with my bros. I'm a wizard.
That actually does bring a good point though too, because you have to know your archetype and what the stereotype is going to be when they look at you, and be able to contradict that.
Hey,
Because like,
Jaron, is your Instagram public or is it private?
Yeah, my Instagram's public.
Okay, so I'm going to put up on the screen, but keep talking, Paul, because I want you guys to see what Jaron
Yeah.
looks like, before you think his dorky pictures. Like,
right.
just to get some clarity, 'cause-
This is a great example. Now, Jaron's smart here.
I did a photo session this weekend too with some really cool architecture and background and blurred
Nice.
shots. We'll
So
see how
Jaron's a good-looking dude with a good-looking physique, right? So
Right.
if he posts some dorky pictures,
He can get away
that's
with it.
going to balance that out actually a bit, and offer kind of so a
Because-
girl's not going to be able to now just like pigeonhole him into a type.
I started
like,
having girls that
he's
were.
like
I had
this.
girls that were intimidated, like they showed up
Yes.
as if they were
Yes, that's true
starstruck,
running
like
dude.
they were. I had girls in El Salvador. I spent the first 6 months there building an outsourced sales team for another business.
Right.
And they'd show
That's a
up.
good thing.
They'd show
That's
up
a
and just
very
take
good thing.
pictures just for Instagram, like I was famous. I think they all thought I was famous, and I wasn't. And in doing so, their government hired me to be the face of Salvadorian tourism in the Middle East, which that campaign
Yep.
kicked off this week. So I got to see how it's doing.
But this is
crazy.
important
I mean,
though,
it's-
because so like your archetype, there's a stereotype they're going to have, so you need to contradict those so they become curious. The essence of attraction is curiosity. If she thinks she has you pegged, you're going to get less results. And so she's going to have a stereotype of you based on how you look, racial, cultural things as well. She'll stereotype you, your age. And so you have to have things in there that contradict that stereotype a little bit. Even if you're high S&V, just a little bit, then it's like, oh, this guy's approachable, or, oh, that's kind of a funny pick. I have to downplay sometimes because my physique is whatever. I got to downplay it a bit, or else I'll have girls intimidated thinking I'm going to rip their heads off or something. You know what I mean? Crazy. So,
Yeah, and you have to know how to leverage and like own certain things and just really be comfortable in your own skin, because we all have some things that are right, like nerdy or dorky or whatever. But I mean, like a perfect example of that is Andrew Tate, right? Where you take like he's big into chess, huge chess player. And if you just take, oh, I'm a chess guy, right? You normally think of like some guy that would get shoved into a locker and then, get beat up for his lunch money. But the way in which he owns it, where he's like, no, I'm a chess player because I'm a highly strategic individual, or perspicacious, as he likes to say. And I like to see everything and all the moves that are ahead. Then it really comes down to you're taking something that's more of like, quote unquote, nerdy, but you're actually owning it and injecting a good, healthy amount of that kind of alpha masculine energy into it. So you can do that with anything, where, I mean, I've had incidences where I have girls like, hey, come over, I'm going to build Legos today. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I just love building, like getting the little model, taking it apart, building it together, come over. And they're just like, oh my God, I totally love these. I used to like do these as a kid all the time. And so, have a girl come over, hook up, hang out, building Legos with her. And it's just like, all right, cool. Like, we're good to go. So, I mean, you can take anything that is, kind of nerdy or whatever, but you just have to know how to own up to it and really be able to channel it and make it work for you.
You need to get that Lambo so you don't have to pull the Lego game, bro.
It's coming. It's already coming. It's
and Lego,
all I gotta do is stay sober. I defeat the stereotype.
And when it comes to the nerdy stuff,
Stay sober. I defeated the stereotype.
When it comes to the nerdy stuff, guys, too, I think it's not about projecting a certain image. You do have to do the work internally, like Rich always says. Like, there were times where I'd start getting girls over, and I realized, oh my God, I'm boring. They leave within an hour, and they would go. I could see they were visibly disappointed. They're like, this guy presented himself as something he wasn't. So you have to go through that phase and go through that work, and then realize, okay, girls like it when I do this. They don't like it when I do that. They're intimidated by me, so maybe I should show them a little the softer side. Paul, you taught me, like, do the beta game too. Like, once I have her legs over her head and I'm just doing things that she could never imagine that she would ever let a guy like me do to her, I can let the guard down and be the nicest, softest guy in the world. And it's really nice at that point, because then I don't have the game
tender
anymore.
Protector. They really do.
Yeah, they need that, right? You need both.
Jaron, you bring up something real interesting here, and it's one of those things that I'm kind of playing with right now, and that is if you're not congruent, right? So
Yes.
guys like you
that comes
actually,
from marketing and sales. You know that from
right.
sales. Yeah.
So guys like you, I think actually have it worse because guys, they don't expect any game from somebody like me. Like if you just meet me, you have no idea who I am. Like there's zero expectation. But a guy like you is jacked, shredded, all that. You've got to play that other side of the game. Otherwise, it just blows them right out.
A lot of bodybuilders have problems with women. A lot of male models.
Yes.
Yeah, they're gym cells, right? Because all they do is have a wicked physique, but they don't have any game with women.
You walk around like, oh man, I look awesome. But now I'm like, all right, well, I want to maintain a decent level of health, but I've looked a lot better, but it takes a lot more time, and I got a lot less results. So for now, it's like, all right, just be generally healthy and happy, and that makes your game.
If women, I was gonna say, if women stereotype you, and it doesn't, if it fits something they have a barrier to, like, so my LTR, right, had a barrier to guys built like me.
I had an anti-Trump girl last weekend. Sex was phenomenal, but afterwards she touched that topic, and I'm like, oh, I said something, and she was gone. The guys know. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, so she my LTR would have never gone for a guy like me because of how it was built initially. Now, when I engaged her, though, I didn't fit the stereotype of what she thinks this gym guy would be like. Exactly. You know what I mean? Which caused her to be curious. And from there, that caused investment, and then attraction built from there. So curiosity and investment are two things you need to build desire. And you got to know, this is part of being socially calibrated. Like when Jason talks to a girl, he knows what he presents like and looks like, so he can be calibrate his game off of that, which will then surprise them. They'll go, okay, he's not what I thought. Now they're curious, and then that investment starts building.
If you don't calibrate, it's going to make it 10 times worse because everyone's like, oh, the biggest thing I get from a lot of clients, right? It's like, oh, you're because I'm 6'6", right? You're a tall 6'6" guy. It's like, I was that tall 6'6" guy that was super awkward. And everybody's like, who's your friend, Randy? What's that guy's name? Yeah, he's weird. Right?
Were you bad at basketball? There's always that kid too. You're like, oh, he's super tall and he couldn't dunk.
That's right.
So it's just like, if you don't know how to leverage it, like everything that you have could work to your advantage or it could work to your detriment, right? So if you're like, really tall guy like me, or if you're like really buff and jacked like Jaron, then like that can definitely work to your advantage. But if you don't have any game, it makes it worse and more frustrating because you're just getting a lot of like initial kind of hits and then just, people just walking away.
Have a look.
And you're getting
it was in Rollo's first book. Have a look.
Yeah. Right. And if you don't do that, you get softly rejected every time because you're like, oh, all these girls are looking at me. They're coming up to me and talking to me. You think you have a shot. And then whereas like when I was a 4, I didn't have a shot with anyone. I knew that. But now I'm like, oh, I have a shot. And then it doesn't go through. You're like, what the hell? So then you have to start working through those things. And a lot of guys just get stuck at that phase. Like, oh, I'm a male model. I'm a bodybuilder. I look like guys in the movies. All these girls are looking at me and they want to talk to me, but just nothing happens from it. And I think you're right, Jason. I never thought of that before, but that almost is worse. It's like a self-imposed, like sexless prison sentence.
They have an expectation. You look like Chad the hot dog.
I'll give you a great example. I got a buddy of mine who is he's an Arabic guy. He's 6'3", I think. The guy is ripped. I mean, he looks like a male model, right? And the way he is with women is a disaster. Like he's an absolute disaster. And now
a lot of girls expect those guys to be like that. No one talks about race in the dating market, but we all know it exists. Like Donovan Sharp says, certain guys have to have better game. I know that. Like I've had black roommates. Their game has to be airtight because if Mexican grandma finds out about it, she'll be disowned. Whereas if I get invited to that wedding, I'm going to dance with grandma and I will have the uncles calling me on Monday to try to do business with me. That's how these countries work. You got to take that into account too.
What's fascinating is, this guy is, he doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't look like, he looks like I'm so bad with race. I'm like, he looks like a tan white guy, right? But he's tall and he's a really good looking guy.
It's obvious, guys. I'm white in case.
Just in case anybody's wondering. So,
now you're Chinese.
I'm Asian.
There we go.
Well, my eyes are squinty for another reason. Guys in the community know why.
It was like, I was out one night with a gal and a couple of her girlfriends met us at a club later. And, here was this guy. He was another guy that looks incredible. Is very successful. Brought his Ferrari out that night and was trying to get one of her friends to go jump in the Ferrari to meet us at the next club. And my Uber came. It was a Honda Odyssey, and she's like, "I just want to hang out with you guys. Like, this guy's creeped me out because it was a confidence issue, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But it was that incongruence there. Here's a guy who's really successful, looks really good, has all the status, right? But his mental game was such a disaster.
He's a plugged-in beta. That's why.
That's what it was. And she's like,
I was in that phase for a few years. It's very frustrating. You're
Yeah,
like, I have a
it's very
Porsche and I have a 360 panoramic view condo, and I'm financing.
Yeah, I'm like, why am I
wear
not?
suits? But girls don't
Let
want
me
me.
ask you
Like,
guys this
yeah, it
question
sucks.
about height, because I mean, height is one of the things that always comes up. It's one of the things a lot of guys like to just focus on. Oh, I'm not 6 foot tall. I'm fucked, right? Because we've all seen women's dating apps say, I like tall guys, or must be over 6, or 6'1", or 6'2". Sometimes they even give you like an exact number, like you have to be at least 6'2" or something like that. How do you guys deal with that? Because I know Renegade's the only super tall guy here. I mean,
I got a funny story about that.
It's
Yeah,
a
'cause
shit
Paul,
test.
I'm the
you're not over
shortest.
6 foot.
You overcome it.
I'm
What's your height,
5'9".
Jason?
I'm 5'11", and so with boots on, because we wear boots everywhere in Texas,
Yeah, so
right?
6 easily.
So I'm 6.
what I
So I just put
6'2".
I just put 6 feet in all the dating app. No one's ever said anything because
Got it.
typically the gals I'm dating are also maybe 5'2", 5'3". They can't tell. You can't
Yeah,
see
women
the
are
top.
short. They don't know the difference.
I don't
It's
know.
just-
No,
Paul, you're like what, 5'10"?
5'1". No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, about 5'9" and some change. This
Yeah.
is how you know I'm about average height, because I
Moth?
have to caveat that half inch.
And Moth?
Yeah, about 5'11", 6 foot, right around where JB is.
Irishman?
Yep.
Now,
Irishman, you said
5'9".
you're 5'9". Yeah, so, I mean,
5'9". So
Yeah,
I,
so
no,
I
in
was
apps
on
I
a roof.
say I'm 5. I've
does,
said I'm 5'11".
does height matter? Yeah,
Or
like women have said to me,
guys,
oh my
never-
God, you're so tall. Like they like
Guys,
a tall, big
if you're-
guy. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, all of you guys, I mean, in fact, most of you are under 6
So-
foot.
Put it in
I got a
centimeters. That's like I tried to, no joke, because I'm in Mexico now, so I realized
Yeah.
180 centimeters is like the 6 foot here. I'm like, oh, good. I literally am 180 centimeters, no boots on. Boots on, oh, I'm way up there. But when I've gone back to the States too, they see centimeters. They're like, oh, like what? Who are you? Like, oh, you're from this town? What? But why centimeters? Like, oh yeah, I live abroad, and you're
Well-
piquing their interest again. So
Yeah.
try things out too. That's
Yeah,
one,
I'll
it's a
throw
shit
something out
test, and
there.
two, get creative. Like just
Go ahead, Paul.
steamroll that obstacle.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Like, I mean, women tend to think I'm taller just because of the way I act.
I think
know it
you're
sounds
wider than you're
weird.
taller.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
too. You know.
But,
And
yeah,
so-
what do they call it? A shit brick house? Is that the?
Yeah,
That's right.
brick shit house.
Definitely a
Shit
shit
house.
brick
Yeah,
house.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Yeah.
It's that, definitely. But yeah, so I mean, I found that it didn't matter really. Like, I've had women that I've dated that were taller than me, and they just, as long as you are dominant and you dominate them and you make them feel small, then that's fine. It's all about, do they feel small or not? But I know we're talking about apps, and we got to cut through some of that stuff. If you're not between 6 and if not over 6 feet tall, give yourself a couple inches. They lie on those things. Just lie. Who cares? Because what's gonna happen is you'll meet with them and they'll be like, if they're curious about it, they'll might be like, you're 5'11"? Be like, Psh, I don't even remember what I put. I don't tell the
She's
truth.
10
on those
pounds
things.
heavier than her best photo. Like
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
Of course, exactly.
Here's the thing.
So,
I mean, if you're 5'1", don't say you're 6 foot. But if you're like 5'10",
Yeah.
you can get away with 6 foot with boots, right?
She
Not
just
a
wants
big
to be
deal.
taller than her. That's it. Girls just want to date taller.
Yeah, exactly.
They
She
don't
just
know
wants
what-
to be with a
they don't
guy
know
that's
what
bigger
the
than her.
6 foot looks like.
Now,
No,
here's
again,
for
guys,
guys that are
That's about
shorter.
self-awareness. Yeah, like,
Right.
put the boots on. Change your style.
That's what I was about to
I'm
say.
about as
If-
wide as I am tall too. So I'm like, okay, well maybe I don't need to build my back out that wide because then I'll look more of a square. I can kind of lean the waist and but you learn those things about yourself. The dating market gives you feedback.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you let it, if you pay attention, if you actually listen to women, they are honest. They will. You think they're bullshitting you, but like, oh no, she literally means that. That is what it is. And you can take those.
Women are
things into
very
account.
honest with their behavior.
I mean, I'll tell you guys about
Yeah.
height. Like, I mean,
Like, oh,
you know,
you're too big, you're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too this. Like, well,
All right,
yeah,
so what are the-
are they sleeping with you?
So what are the woes of being 6'6", Renegade?
well, so at the 6'6" area, I'm actually like almost like, I think the perfect height is like 6'3". That's
Because
like
I mean, like you're one of the
perfect
few guys
Between
that I
6
stand
foot
around,
and
like
6'4".
like
from the stats.
I've stood
My
beside
brothers
him,
are 6'1"
and
6'2".
he's a tall dude, and I'm like at least 6'2", right?
Right. Ideal
Yeah.
height from when they've run like numbers on it, women tend to like between 6 foot and 6'4" is about the cap, and then it starts to have diminished returns.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And
So I'm 2 inches
you
into
probably
that diminishing
experienced that.
return side of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say no. Like, I've definitely noticed like girls tend to be like height supremacists, as we call them, because they
Nice.
definitely have a very built-in, and it's kind of natural, right? You want that built-in level of security with your partner. But you know, what I've found is, especially with the guys that I hang with, a lot of the guys that I know that do extremely well the most are the shorter guys that they might be like 5'6", but their personality is 7 foot tall.
Talk
My one
about the
friend-
5'6" personality guy, because guys always question me on that. I've
Yeah.
told
Tom
this
Cruise.
story about an old roommate that I've had that was like 5'4",
Pocket
and
Hercules.
he was a slayer, pocket Hercules. Yeah, you heard the story, right?
Yep.
5'6".
I
So
have a
go
buddy
ahead and
the
tell
same
your
way.
story, and I'll just shut up.
So I have what we real
Hang
quick.
on, Paul.
anecdote.
I want to hear Renegade story on the 5'6".
Oh, I'm sorry. You have a
dude.
story.
Hold
My
on.
bad.
No, I got a lot of stories with this guy, but so he's one of those I'll never forget, because this guy. So there was this team of like volleyball players that came into this place that we're at, like so all these girls are like minimum like 5'11", right? Just tall Amazonian, just very good looking athletic girls. And so my friend, he's 5'6", and he says, it's like, oh, look at my friend was like, my other friend was like, hey man, like look at all those tall girls, like trying to go to on a little bit. He's like, dude, let me get my personality axe. I'm about to go chop down some trees. So literally walks in,
That's awesome.
starts talking to all of them, introduces us to everyone. So one of the girls is like about 6'1". He winds up hooking up with her in the bathroom at this place. And we're just like, it's always one of those examples that stood out to me, because he used to say, even though I'm 5'6", my personality is 7 feet tall. And so it really is true about how he really owns his skin, and he's very comfortable. And he's like, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm short, and there's literally nothing I can do about that. But at the end of the day, that it could either be something that I get hung up on personally, or I just go out and just own it. And really what it comes down to is, again, right, that being able to just go out there and see what happens with it. Because if it's not a big deal to you, then it's not going to be a big deal to other people. If you make it a big deal in your own head, that's going to subconsciously start to translate and permeate out, and it's going to make it a big, big deal for other people.
And
So
develop
that's-
yourself
let's-
in other areas too. Like if you're
Yeah.
5'6" and a DJ, you don't have to worry. I had a buddy. I'm like, dude, how do you stay
Right.
with chicks? He was a gym buddy, so like more of a spotter type thing. We never hung out. I'm like, dude, like how do you do this? Ran to a club one night, like pulled a girl right out from underneath me. I'm like, dude, you're disgusting. What the hell? Guy sold coke. I'm like, okay, I can't compete with that. It's not
So-
a joke. That's in the market.
So
Yeah.
here's how they think, though. So it's yes, women want the best that they can do, but it's subjective. It's subjective through what they feel like that is. It's not the subjective measure. This is where a lot of guys get on the internet and they fuel guys' insecurities. Oh, well, objectively, 6 foot tall is better, more tall, so you can't get girls you want if you're under that. It's not how women think or how their attraction triggers work. When guys approach things like that, I automatically know they suck with women because they have no idea
women.
how. Well,
It
sure,
repels
but then
them.
they have no idea how women operate. They haven't really been around women or dated enough women to see what happens. And I got a good quick anecdote to illustrate this. So a friend of mine is he's in the acting thing, and he's going to be in a pretty huge movie coming out in the next year or two, like one of the superhero movies, and he's the lead. And I can't say anything more than that because it's all like non-disclosure agreements and stuff, right? So this dude is like jacked, good-looking dude, but guess what? He's not super tall. He's like 5'7", And so in Hollywood, he'll wear shoe lifts, so he's like 5'11". All right, but he's really only about 5'7". So he went out on it with a date with a girl. He had a nice time, whatever, seemed good. She never called him back, ghosted him. She went to a party, found out he was going to be the lead in this movie and an actor.
Of course.
And then she texted him back, right? It was hey, whatever.
Exes do that to you. They see your Instagram,
Sure.
and they're like, oh, whoa, you have a jet ski? Like, hey, how's it going?
So yeah. And so he kind of talked with her a little bit and kind of got down to the root of, well, what was the reason for you not calling me back? Like, really? And got her comfortable enough to be able to tell him. And she said, well, you were a little bit shorter than me, and I didn't really like that. But, I thought I'd give it a chance. I heard this. His status outweighed his height at that point. Now, he never went out with her again because he wants genuine desire for, as far as being an alpha genetic sexual option, not for status, money, or the other things. And he's right doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
You
There's
get a lot of that
plenty
from
of girls-
seeking too, so that's why a lot of guys. There's a debate
100%.
whether to use that channel or not. I consider a marketing channel.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, okay.
Finish up, Paul.
Yeah. So the point is, though, it's under a series of categories. If you're 5'6", but your confidence is up, your personality hits triggers for her, your game is good, other things are good about you, she'll see you as a genetic option to want to be with. It doesn't have to be status necessarily. She will change her mind. Her attraction in the moment has a lot to do with her subjective feelings that can change at other moments. And so you can't get hung up on one insecurity or trait. You just have to elevate yourself in every other category and you'll do just fine. Anyway.
All right, let me get to some of these super chats here so we can get these cleaned up before they disappear. Cable says, I have a girl that we F constantly, but I found out that she was smashing someone else weeks before coming back to me. Am I overthinking it? What do you guys think?
I mean,
that's a guarantee in today's marketplace. I had a buddy in my hometown break up with a girl. He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna." He's doing the texting thing in the basement, drinking beer. I'm like, dude, the more you text her, the more likely it is she's gonna be on someone within the next 24 hours. Like, back off. She'll be standing outside your door with her stupid suitcase. It's raining, and she'll be like, "Oh, I'm an idiot." She'll come back inside.
The thing that you got to understand about women today is that there really aren't very many single women. Like on all of these dating apps, they're probably just trying to exercise their hypergamous nature and see what else out there that might be a little bit better. They got an F buddy, they got an ex-boyfriend they might be still pounding, they might have another dude on the app that they're seeing, and they're still on the app, seeing you. So
and
don't be surprised
Instagram
when
is
it
a dating
happens.
app.
Yeah.
Well, this is unclear to me. I don't know if this guy is saying she said coming back to me. I mean, were they together and then they broke up and then she smashed someone else and came back? If that's to happen, then yeah, kick her to the curb. If she was banging somebody and then you just met her and smashed, then fine. But if
I'm
she was
assuming that it's
Sounds like-
related to the topic tonight. That's
it sounds like it's very like loose. Like you maybe met her off an app and just like hey, we come out, we hang out. She's like a kind of like a hookup buddy type situation.
Yeah,
All right,
if she's like an LTR or a girlfriend, then yeah.
if it's a
really-
girlfriend, you kick her to the curb,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if she's she's up to that.
If you're just looking to have fun, yeah. If you get serious about that stuff, girls will sleep with you more when you don't take the game seriously. You're just like, oh yeah, we're just having fun. We're at a carnival. Like Rella says, it's your turn on the carnival ride. When you break down that fourth wall and talk to them that way, they want to have fun with you. And if you're gonna judge them, then they're not gonna open themselves up to you.
I'm not sure what. So hang on, Johnson. He must have another super.
This is the guy that wanted to move, or he actually.
the guy in the small town.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
wanted to move
Yeah.
from the small town, and then he said, "That's where I'm at, but means giving up 150,000 retirement job I'm thinking about." And then he says after that, "Thanks for the input." I mean, like bottom line, I mean, you want to have access to more beautiful women, you're gonna have to move to a bigger town. It's as simple as that.
Pick your poison, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
pick your poison.
I took a serious pay cut, but I live in Mexico now, so I bring home a lot more than I ever did in the U.S. I have no expenses, and all that money gets invested.
Boom.
Yeah, with the
So
way the
I
options
I really don't have to work that hard. I do, but I don't have to.
the options you have today, there's a lot more availability to be like not location dependent as far as your source of income goes. So it really comes down to if you're tired of the fish in your pond. Right, you want
Go to
salmon,
different
but
ponds.
you're 100 miles from where salmon aren't. You got to pack up and go where the salmon are.
You got to fish where
Join
the fish
join
are, right?
Rich's group. Half of us have courses in there, and I've gone through a couple. I've gone through a couple of guys' courses. I've done all sorts of stuff from the guys in the group, and they help you get to that level.
Boom, right there. You guys can join anytime you want. That link
Come
to
down to
join is in
Miami
the
with us.
community.
Miami's gonna be sweet.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about
gonna get
Miami in a
lot of
second
value out of
because
that,
Jerry sent a super as
Yeah,
well.
Jerry's got one.
Nick said girls have told me guys chat too much and they get bored and ghost them.
Yep.
So when you find out she's a real person, just ask them out. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of goofy guys that'll just like text and they never ask a girl out. That's one of the things I heard a few times as well. Is like, well, guys just don't ask us out anymore, and I don't understand why. And it's like, well, it's because they're goofy. So, just get to the point. I mean, if there's genuine desire and she wants to exchange numbers, get off the app and set the date. Get it going.
You know what happened?
Point.
I'm free. Free Tuesday, 8 p.m. 420 snacks, snuggles. Yes, no.
The point of apps,
no, boom, next.
the point of apps is to get off them as soon as possible.
That's right.
You're not on there to like be, there for a long term. It's not your end game.
Only do them on the toilet. Swipe and do
it.
your responses in batches and live your life and plan your day out and have really cool stuff going on. Because then you won't worry about it. And the less you worry about it, the more success you're gonna have.
Just a quick super here from a fan that watches recordings at 2 times speed. That's my strategy. I usually watch videos that I can't do 2 times. I usually do like 1.5 times, but that's how I watch most of my videos. I almost never watch live stuff. But thank you for that. You're a father of 3 on profile or not? I'll take that one, and I want to hear Jason Bible as well. And who else has a kid here? Paul.
Me.
Oh yeah, that's right. So if you're on a app where you're not looking for a relationship, no, you don't put it on there. Why would you put it on there? If you're looking for, a chick to like wife up, or for whatever reason you're looking for like a committed monogamous girlfriend, then it's probably something that you might want to mention. I don't even know if I'd mention it on the app, but it's something that's going to get mentioned soon. Jay, how do you handle that with your app or with your bio?
So it, depending, I'm on 2 right now. I'm on Hinge and Bumble, and they've got it in there essentially like, do you have kids, right? So it just kind of shows up as one of the, I don't know what you call it, like in the header there on Hinge, and it shows up as this little bubble on. I don't think it's that big a deal. Now I don't have.
Is it
pictures
required?
No, I mean you could do whatever you want, right? But
yeah,
if you're in your 40s, I think women kind of expect you to have kids. I mean,
yeah,
like one of the things a lot of like single fathers don't understand, and I've been meaning to talk about this in a video at some point, is that you've actually got pre-selection, right?
That's
because you've already reproduced, you have children, they're beautiful usually. I mean, yeah, right. So, I mean, like, women are looking at that and being like, oh my God, her eyes are gorgeous or whatever, sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, I know, I make beautiful kids, sort of is the way that you deal with that. And you can say that directly, or you can, do it in a smug way, but it's not a bad thing, right? I mean, as long as you have your money sorted out and your business life sorted out and you're on a mission, women will date single dads. I mean, I'm famously known for saying, stay away from single moms. I only ever dated, single women that didn't have kids. I mean, my girlfriend doesn't have any kids, right? So it's like, yeah, you can do it.
Yes. My suggestion is no.
It shouldn't be front and center,
No, it shouldn't be front and center. Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like you're shouldn't be like, this is Braden, my son, and he's my world. If you're a guy putting that up, then
Hi, my name's the Irishman, and I have 3 little superheroes that are my world, right?
Yeah.
The
reason why
James and Patty and Powers.
The reason why it's a no, and I'm going to say it's a no, is because you have to ask yourself what information you're putting on there, and if it's going to make you the attractive genetic option she wants to bang, or if it's going to signal all of the other beta qualities.
Right.
If you're looking for an LTR, yes, you're going to provide both of those, right? But if
you're on some hokey site like eHarmony, then you're probably going to mention it.
I wouldn't be, but that's because you need to be the guy she wants to bang first. Right. Everything else comes from there. Or you're gonna have problems in that relationship. You're gonna question the genuine desire that she has for you in the relationship. You'll be booking consults with any one of me, Rich, whoever, going, I don't know if she likes me, and she stopped having sex with me 3 months ago. This is the stuff that's gonna happen if she doesn't have that. Yeah, if she doesn't have that genuine desire and you're hunting for the relationship, you're in the wrong headspace. You don't have to tell a girl everything about your life on an app. You actually need to protect yourself a little bit. I was very protective over just who I am and what I'm doing, because there's crazies out there too. And so I suggest no, not that you wouldn't bring that up or talk about that if the girl seems cool and you're on that date or whatever, but I just wouldn't put it on the app.
So
personally, I don't.
So for the single dad part of this question too, I kind of want to deal with this a little bit longer. So Irishman and Jason, do you guys have any trouble finding, beautiful, attractive women, being a single father?
No.
0.
It's not. I think there's a lot of this stuff, and you guys have been in this space a lot longer than I have. I think there's a lot of this stuff that men are under the impression that women have the same attraction triggers as men do. Mm-hmm. And it's like, bro, it's kind of a whole completely different animal. And the stuff you think they care about, they really don't. Mm-hmm. They just don't.
I could tell you've grown up in some interesting areas in LA, like how many guys that are out there with like, baby mamas all over the place, right? And it's like it's with a girl having a kid and a guy looking at that versus girls looking at a guy who has a kid, two totally different ball games.
Yeah, that's so weird to like have that conversation, because if we talk about that right now and say that, if you take a 40-year-old guy and a 40-year-old woman, both with two small children, the 40-year-old guy's SMV is going to be higher than hers. But I mean, if you have that conversation, then you're going to invite ridicule and critique, and you're going to be called everything under the sun, right?
Can't tell the truth sometimes.
The one thing I would say about been a dad dating is, if you got to blow off and say, look, I can't do something this weekend, I got my kids and we're planning on doing blah blah blah. Any guy that's out there and signals to a girl that he's willing to put his kids second or dump them or put them on the back burner so he can be with her, that's a huge beta signal.
Yeah.
You want to just portray the confidence that I'm doing my thing, I got my kids, I'm doing this, and if you want to hook up next week, we can hook up next week, but my life isn't getting twisted, changed, or altered, or rescheduled for you.
Guys, does it help signal to girls that maybe you have less of those beta qualities because of that said reason? Because, hey, I have stuff going on, I have kids, they absolutely come first, and the girl knows, okay, well, this guy's not going to get super attached or clingy.
You never want to say that my
weird.
Kids come first as a guy. I mean,
that's
why
you just
tell
want
her
to demonstrate
why
by
tell
your
her any of
schedule.
that?
Yeah,
you just,
Yeah.
hey, I got stuff going
I'm
on.
busy.
Potentially communicate.
That's right.
Tuesday.
I'm busy, so Friday night, like we down or like my place 8 o'clock sort of thing, right?
All I'll say is that there's a certain amount of, because right as they say, I haven't had them, but I've seen it in my friends where they say like being a parent changes you, and it definitely does in a lot of ways, which I'm sure you guys who have kids can attest to it. But one of my good friends, I definitely noticed this, that when he had his first kid, very, very interestingly, his level of game just went kind of through the roof, and we had this joke where we would call it dad games. I'm running dad game right now, and I was like,
I did a niece and nephew game. Like take the
Yeah.
little Gerber baby model to
Man,
the
the
park.
pre-selection
Like we're
thing
doing
is-
pull-ups together.
yeah,
Oh,
it's a thing.
it's real.
It's a thing. So we got one here from Kelly. Says, I feel like my charisma is better in person and not as good through Tinder, so I've always preferred meeting in real life, but it's just not as easy now. That's why you
Kelly
make a
female
phone
or
call.
male?
That's why you make... I'm assuming it's a male, because like my audience is like
I'm
mostly
thinking of
dudes.
Clerks too. If anyone knows
Yeah,
that
but
movie.
I mean, like, that's why you make a phone call, right? Let them hear your voice, or do a video call if you want. But at least, a minimum, you should have some voice game, and then you can let your charisma kind of shine through. Nothing like you're on the phone for an hour. It's the way that I used to like to do it is I'd be driving somewhere. I drive a nice car. It makes loud noises. I'd do a quick Bluetooth call. Hey, I just wanted to give you a shout between my meetings, blah, blah, blah. We're going to meet at this place at this time. Wear that black dress from the fourth picture. Done. That's it. You make a quick joke about it, and then you kind of move on, sort of thing. That's it.
Adapt
Well,
or
he's
die.
talking about his charisma as if it's a fixed thing, and that's a mistake.
Right,
So
yeah.
you need to improve your charisma and improve your communication skills and these other mediums. These aren't fixed things. You can get better at them. Right?
Well, I always like the definition. I don't want to say it was the guys over at Chateau that would say this, and they'd say all game is learned charisma.
Yep.
That's really what this is, right?
Pretty much.
So
I say it's strategically removing the obstacles that she puts in her head to not sleep with you, and that could be through looks maxing, money maxing, status maxing, through either little things, little comments I hear. I know exactly what to say to get rid of those when you start having
That's the way I look at it too.
And that's
Yep.
literally just, it's like defusing a bomb. Like her natural state is to be with you. You just have to get her out of her own way.
Yeah, and make an experiment, right? Like, okay, so your charisma is not that great online. All right, we'll experiment, right? Like, experiment with, hey, this week I'm going to be like super cocky and like kind of arrogant, right? And then this week I'm going to be like a little bit more like conservative and suave, and then just kind of find that healthy medium.
Yep.
So I would say to you, like, again, as they're saying, your charisma is not this fixed thing that's in place; it's dynamic. So experiment and just kind of like see what starts generating results for you, and then once you start seeing that, build on it.
Do this too, guys, because I have a concept. Like, I used to have friends in college, and I was a real nerd, like a real good student. They'd be like, hey, every time I see you, you're always drunk and having a good time. Like, you see me 1% of the time. The rest of my life is completely not like that. So girls are kind of like that too. You're giving them like the best glimpse of yourself. So what you want to do is you want to put that out there of like, okay, this is the absolute best version of me. And in doing so, when they experience you, Tony Robbins like does this stuff, like get in the right emotional state. Do it after you have a workout. Go for a jog, go for a bike ride, be feeling really good about yourself, and then respond on your apps. I've noticed like a couple of weeks ago, I had a bunch of flakes, and then a couple of girls showed up, like real bad experiences. I'm like, oh, I'm in a bad state right now. I should not be putting myself on the market if I'm in a bad state. It's like playing baseball again. Like, oh, I have a sprained ankle. Like, yeah, I could go up to bat, but like now I'm just going to aggravate it, make it worse, and risk half my season. Like, I'll sit this one out.
Right. What about the notion that physique is more important than height? Because I got some data on that, and towards the end of my book where I discovered that, I mean, basically, if you got a guy that's 5'7" with a swimmer's physique and a 6'1" guy that's shaped like a pear and looks like a can of smashed assholes, she's gonna pick the guy with the swimmer's body all day long.
Right.
All day long. So
it's a
physique
diminished
does matter.
return here. Yeah, it's just like anything else. Like, okay, you can have a decently lean kind of a swimmer's body at 5'7". That doesn't mean that you need to be Mr. Olympian looking at 5'7", though, right? Like, there's a point where it ceases to matter. If you're in decent shape, cool, maybe she would go for the guy who's 6 foot tall, who's decent shape with a little bit of body fat, over a guy who's 5'7" and jacked bodybuilder guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like there's the diminished return on where this goes or how far it goes. But really, just be the best you, because it really doesn't matter. Chicks have different attraction triggers. There might be some girl that's like a height queen, right? And that's it. Like, if you're not 6, dude, she can't do it. It's not her thing, because her attraction triggers just developed that way since she was younger. Go to the next one. It's not a big deal.
And it depends on what she's shopping for. I got when I was in Central America building my sales team, I was in kind of a sketch place, so I stayed like right next to the presidential palace. So a lot of like foreign government dignitaries, whatever came in, I'd set my app to a 1 kilometer radius. Like, okay, girl from France, girl from Guatemala, like they're all in the government, like they're on vacation, like they're doing some serious stuff, and then like, oh, you're in the same hotel as me, and you look like you, and no one else here looks like that, and you're safe because you're not a part of this event. You're clearly an outsider. So it's again, what is she looking for? What state is she in? What market are you in? You got to look at all these subtextual, these context clues too, to determine kind of what you're doing with your game. I call it a toolkit, because all these techniques are just tools to unlocking herself and unlocking yourself too.
Paul, what's the word on Miami, man? You going or no?
Yeah, that's going to depend on a couple things. One is military. 2 is I got my course and membership program dropping. I gotta stay on my point of origin with that first. Make sure that's good before I start planning trips. I'll know in about 3 weeks though.
Can we build workshops into that? Because I think
there's going to be some workshops.
You and I had some professional stuff too we wanted to achieve out of that trip.
There's going to be some workshops.
Yeah, you guys are going to be teaching us. You guys are going to be teaching us how to do workouts. I'm going to be teaching charisma.
Listen, guys, if I can't make this one in November, then we have to do another one like into January, February when I can travel. I'm still working.
We'll do something where it's warm. We talked to Nick Carr about it.
Mexico.
We might do something there. Paul, I know, wants to host Detroit, but we're not doing Detroit in January.
Mexico.
Vegas.
Fuck that.
What?
Vegas.
Vegas,
baby.
Vegas. I just
Come
got
to Mexico City and download Bumble.
Okay, wait. Hold on a sec. We got to cover photographs before we wrap up because I want to get this done within 2 hours. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted to cover photography. How important is good photography? Like, can you just take your cell phone and do bathroom selfies? Is that
the most important thing?
Would everybody agree it's the most important thing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first thing that they're looking at.
Yeah.
It's smash or pass basically. So they're looking at the optics of attraction. So
I
you have to have good
sunsets and
photography.
misspelled road signs before. I wasn't getting inbound offers.
Yeah. Hire a professional photographer. It's going to cost you a few $100. You can find them on Airbnb Experiences. Make sure that they've got the right lens, like the right glass on their camera, and they know how to do portrait, photography. Get your hair cleaned up, get your beard, cleaned up that morning. Get a couple of different outfits that you're going to wear. Something smart that's tailored, fitted properly. Something casual. Do some different locations. Boom. Now you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 photographs that you can run through PhotoFeeler. Let PhotoFeeler, which is an app, then decide which ones are your best photographs based on real people's voting on them, and then upload.
Pay attention to the guy you're recruiting, man. Like, you really need to do your due diligence on a photographer. I mean, we had a guy in our community that, look at the guy's portfolio. He spent a couple $100 on just absolute dog shit photos.
Yeah.
They're all horrible. I mean, it's
The lighting was
feel
bad.
for
The
guy.
clothes
It
were
did more
bad.
harm than
Yeah,
good.
the
Yeah.
look, the aesthetic was horrible. The clothing was horrible. The locations were horrible.
Like,
I
wear
mean,
clothes that fit you guys. Like, have
Yeah.
a physique and then put clothing on your physique that looks good.
pick an
Pretty much all
archetype
good for
and go from
style.
there.
Yeah.
Renegade Wingman's got a great video on archetypes. Go check that out. I mean, like there's good stuff you can do about it, but I mean, really pay attention because make sure the guy that's taking photos of you has done dating profiles before or taken specific photos for that, and you'll know after the first couple of minutes whether the guy's full of shit or not. He'll know the locate, the picking the locations, all that
Well,
kind
just
of
take a
stuff.
look at his
should be
portfolio,
simple.
right? Because he should have a
Yeah.
website with some, prior
Right.
shoots, and you can look through and be like, okay, this guy, like he knows what he's doing.
Totally.
Like,
if
I
you're
have
So,
literally seen a guy in person that's like a 7 look like a 9 in photographs. It's insane. Like, you
And that's
can
all
really
negotiable on the
level it
front
up
end.
quite a
It's
bit.
like, hey, I want to do multiple outfits. I want to do professional. I want to do a middle of the road and a casual. I want to do 2 to 3 locations, and this is my budget. And then let them go, and then just go from there. I mean,
And then get in the habit of taking photos too, because a lot of my good photos are actually just from iPhone stuff. Like I'll do the
big girls
professional
take them
shoots,
for
but
you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm terrible at posing, but I'll set the expectation of my frame because again, girls want attention. So if you can help them get more attention, and while they're dating you, like hell yeah, you're just adding their experience. So I
And
make
if
it
you-
safe that like we take photos when we're out. Like I'll take photos of my girl,
Right.
like, hey, this is a great angle. You look hot here. I expect you to do the same. And they're like, oh, and they love it, and they'll get good angles. Of you
So,
without you realizing
here's
it.
another really important component too, because you need to show social calibration and proof that you have a network of interesting people. Because when she's looking at your photographs, she's going to think to herself, "Oh, look, there's a picture of Jason Bible on his boat with his buddies, and there's 3 other boats tethered that way and over that way, and there's a lot of hot girls wearing bikinis with fantastic bodies, and there's a shot of him there with his group of friends," and she's thinking to herself, okay, well, this legend has this network, I think I want to be in, like, insert here. Like, that's what she's thinking. So when you
It's
have an
experience.
opportunity, like you're going to an event, you're going to a formal gathering, you're going to a beach or a pool or something like that, use it as an opportunity to get like a group of friends photo that validates who you are and what you do as a living. It can be put on Instagram. Like, it's not a big deal, right? It's not simping for anything. It's just, hey, this is who I am. I'm sending out my inbound marketing cues, which is basically what I was talking about earlier, Jared. Sorry about that, Paul. I pulled you back in. I'm not sure why you took off there, but yeah, like, you get the idea, right? Like, use the opportunities to
internet's
get
cutting
decent
out.
photography.
Yeah, my photographer should be coming to Miami. If we
Yes.
get 1 or 2 more guys to commit,
Perfect.
he'll come down.
Perfect, because
Yeah,
you have
I'm
a beautiful
already in,
place
yeah.
rented. Okay, guys. This is what's
Yes.
happening down there. So they've got a great Airbnb rented. It looks like the grotto from the Playboy Mansion. It's got like
It
a
has a
waterfall and
grotto.
all this shit in a big pool. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a group of champs like this around together, having a few drinks by the pool, a couple cigars, some whiskey, get some good photographs while you're there. You go out to a social event, you're sitting on a patio or something like that, get some good photographs, right? Like, use
And
it as a good opportunity, because that's
And
what.
you'll see that if you have a dating app in Miami, you'll see half the good-looking girls. Hey, where's the boat party? Who has
Yeah.
a boat? Yacht? Like they'll put what they're
It's not
looking
their
for.
boat.
Uh-huh.
Whenever you
So
see a
it's
chick
like,
on
oh,
a
yeah,
boat, it's
there's
not her
boats.
boat. Trust me.
No, never.
Never their boat.
They're always broke. You'll pull them home from the boat, and in the morning they're like, they don't have money for Uber. You're like, oh, like there's a word we used to call those girls in society, but like, yeah, you just go from guy to guy. You have to.
Right. All right. So, anything else on photography before we wrap up?
I would definitely say, to Jaron's point, make use of Instagram stories. That's phenomenal. I cannot tell you how many times where I'm out and I'm at a spot, and to be a picture of me and like one or I don't know however many girls.
I'm in the neighborhood. I'll be there in an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll literally out of nowhere start getting help. Oh, hey, you're here at this spot, or you're going this, or hey, I saw you doing this last night.
Yeah.
It's the Instagram stories is like it's your best friend.
I noticed your
Instagram
Instagram's
puts
got
it-
that a lot, Renegade. Yeah,
Instagram puts you back in front of her. Instagram puts you back in front of her face without you directly be like, "Hey, baby,
Yes,
are we meeting up?"
absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
the algorithm does your work for
I
you.
get-
Like, oh, this guy's so interesting that I'm being
Inbound
showed
marketing.
him automatically.
Boom.
I
All
got deluged with my Jack Nicholson photograph, just for the record.
All right. Hang around for a sec, guys. Let me just real quick before I go. I got to shout out to the channel sponsor, the Grondike Soap Company. Where's my damn banner? My banner. The banner. There it is, right there. Okay, so you go to coopersoap.com, you get 10% off. It's pheromone infused, handmade soap with no endocrine disruptors, and also my supplement line, Boom, is just above my shoulder. They're all categorized in the respective categories for estrogen metabolism, for testosterone boosters, for muscle building, for fat burn. I have had a lot of people ask me about shipping outside of the U.S. Not yet. Hopefully before the end of the year. I've had some people ask me about a like a line that boosts your immune function, and that's coming out very soon too. So if you want to check it out, it's the unpluggedalpha.com. Use coupon code Alpha10 on your first order. You'll get 10% off. There's also a subscribe and save option. So if you're using supplements on a regular basis, subscribe and save, you'll get a discount. It's a better way to go. All right, gentlemen. Want to thank you for all hopping on. Do you want to let people know where they can find you on the internets? Moff, you go first. Obviously on stereo.
Yeah, I do a stereo show. Nothing super crazy right now. I'll do a couple times a week. As we start doing these, I'll have kind of like a pre-show based on the topic. You can find me there. We're also, a couple of us here in this group are starting sort of our own spinoff of kind of a similar panel like this, where we're going to do some more, maybe one-on-one content, things like that. You can subscribe. It's here on YouTube. It's called Men on a Mission. You can see my nice, beautiful face as the thumbnail if you can find it. Be sure to subscribe. And we don't have any content right now, but we'll be turning it in soon. Guys like JB here and Jaron.
Why don't you grab the link and drop it in the live chat just so they can get it, because you're a moderator.
Yeah.
All right. Irishman, did you want to do anything, or are you going to stay like under the radar? Under the radar? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be in the kitchen if anyone's looking for me. That's right.
Yeah. Paul, you can find at Apex Mindset. You should be super familiar with him. Make sure you check him out. Jaron, you've got menshrine.com. You're muted. You're muted, bud.
When I started, yeah, that's the site I mentioned before. When I started going through my kind of transformation through essentially it was like a green card fraud divorce. We all have origin stories in the community. I started documenting everything in my steps because I am a guy who tracks. I'm very academic. I'm very nerdy. And like Paul always says, like if you can track it, you can manage it, and that I'm living testament to that. So for Menshrine, a lot of the stuff was kind of incelish, black pillish before. I'm doing a refresh of the site. It's actually should be up here.
You were a black pillar before?
No, I was never black pillar. I was like an accidental beta maybe, or alpha.
Okay.
What was it, alpha beta?
Just doom and gloomy in your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of a nihilist. I'm like, oh, all chicks suck. All they want to do is hurt me and use me. Kind of want that attitude, but I still got laid. It's just they weren't good experiences. Looking back, I thought they were, but now I'm like, I'm having fun now. Like I get the best out of women, and I give them the best of myself every day, and that it's such a great way to live life.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that before. So Menshrine is going to show the evolution of myself really through that process. I'll eventually have courses and whatnot in there. But for now, I just need the refresh version up. You'll see I was anonymous for years and years. So this whole new thing, now that I'm unplugged from the corporate world, it's my real name. It's a unique name. Go ahead and follow me. Or I always tell my followers, unfollow me. I like unfollowers just as much as I like followers, because if you don't like what I have to say, I don't need you around me. My world's awesome. And if you want to be a part of it, menshrine.com is how to figure out how. At Jaron Scott, I have the unique name, so I got my name for everything. That's Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff.
All right, Renegade Wingman, where do people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at this handle on YouTube, on Instagram, as well as on Twitter as well. Right now, I'm a little bit more active on Twitter than the other platforms, just because I'm in the middle of interviewing some people to hire to run my Instagram, because I've got a lot of content, but I just have a lot of time to post. And then I'll be getting back into posting more stuff on the YouTube channel, just because you guys start to see some of the content, some of the stories that have come out. We've had a pretty aggressive summertime, so with a lot of travel and a lot of just other things going on, I haven't had the time to dedicate to content creation, but things are slowing down a little bit more, and the money is way up. So it's been good, been worthwhile. But yeah, You can find me at this handle.
Jason, do you want to shout out to anything like your book or anything? Or
well, I mean, I run real estate funds. So if you guys are ever interested in investing in real estate, just type in Jason Bible Real Estate. We do radio shows and all kinds of other stuff. In fact, we just did an interview with George Foreman, which turned out to be really good, and on a new series that we're doing on a radio show. But just type in Jason Bible Real Estate. Do what? No, it's not a REIT. We're a 506c, so we are essentially a crowd fund for real estate, and then we go out and buy a bunch of real estate.
Got it. All right, guys. So there you have it. That is my. It's a few of the boys from the 1% community. There's 500 and I don't know, 60 or something like that. last time I
86
counted.
or something now. It's
Yeah, there's there's a few hundred guys in there that are
Two Macedonian phalanx.
Yeah, that are phalanx, yeah, that are champs and
A lot
legends.
of
So if
guys
you want
aren't
to check
active
it out,
though. Like,
yeah,
if
there's a
you're
lot
gonna
of
pay-
guys that are just flies on the wall. But you
I
know,
was
when
like
we
that for a year. If you're gonna pay for it, get
Yeah.
stuff out of it. Like,
come
we're all
in
doing cool
and
stuff.
do something, yeah, come in and
we
do
all want to
something.
help you too.
We're actually moving everything off of Facebook in the next couple of weeks onto a more censorship-resistant platform because one of the pains in the ass with Facebook is nobody really likes it. So, yeah, you can check that out. That's pinned in the top comment. We'll be back next Monday. The plan is, if you guys like these types of dialogues and conversations, is going to basically to do one of these like once a month. So I'll be doing like Unplugged Alpha episodes on the stuff that I want to talk about, and then maybe like on the first day of the month, we'll do a Unplugged Alpha with the guys from the 1% on a different topic, and just kind of chop it up so you can get a little bit more insight from insiders that are doing the work, as I like to say, because a lot of people are like, well, let me see your receipts. Well, here's some receipts. Okay, all of these men are part of my receipt collection. Okay, does that make you happy now? All right, I'll see you guys later. Have an awesome night. Peace out.